Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hello.
Matthew Cotto.
Hello.
Brian Shea.
Hey.
We have a jam-packed show for everybody today. Not only are we finally doing what should have been done a long time ago and looking back at Portal 1, the world is demanding us to take a lot of time to dissect everything about Portal 1. So
Not a lot has been said about that game.
That's right. Or
To be fair.
maybe it has, but it's been a while.
It has been a while.
So the back half of the show is our game club for Portal 1. We're going to have a full table here talking about every detail we can possibly squeeze out of Portal 1. A little bit timely just because every writer who is loosely involved with the Portal series has just apparently jumped into the same jet car and rocketed towards the moon away from Valve.
It's
So
kind of sad.
it's
Weird.
it's a send-off to all single-player, well-written content from Valve outside of Dota or whatever. Anyways, but before we get to that, we are going to talk about ARMS with Brian Shea.
Yeah.
Hot Nintendo Switch property. And then Matthew Cotto, last second audible here, talking about Dirt 4.
That's right. I can say some things.
There we go, racing out of the blue. Then we're going to do a little swap. We're going to talk about Fortnite. It's going to be fun to see the first Unreal Engine 4 game. I'm excited to see that.
Sure.
It's not sure that's how it was built way back in the day. Anyways, then we're also talking maybe a little bit about Pokemon and Disappointment, and then also getting Ben Reeves in here to talk about Monument Valley 2, which seemed to have a surprise launch, and then some fun emails, and then Portal. But for now, ARMS on the Nintendo Switch.
ARMS.
Yeah.
On the Nintendo Switch.
We've talked about it a couple times, probably twice on this podcast. Now you have reviewed it.
Yeah.
Get the score out of the way right away.
8.25 out of a possible 10.
That is higher than I expected.
Really?
We went to a 10-point scale. I forgot about that.
Sorry,
I've been
no,
doing
it's
this
all
wrong the whole time. Sorry.
God.
How's that going to affect your dirt discussion? I don't know.
Doing the math.
So Shay, what impressed you the most playing this game?
I think that like just the hidden layers of strategy. Like you look at it and it seems like it's the super accessible fighting game that like anybody can play, especially since they just build it with like the motion controls. They never really talked about like the standard controls.
To the point that even like a couple weeks ago at that event, they were still like making sure Kyle, they actually grabbed his hands and started flailing them around.
They were
him.
insistent. Like
Yeah.
they were like, no, motion controls are the way to play, which I
And
think
it's-
Shay and I can agree right out of the gate is not the way to play.
It's not like
Really?
they're
Alrighty.
fine. Like they're not like completely incompetent. Like I like them more than I like the motion controls in like Splatoon, for example.
A lot of defenders
I know.
motion controls
A
in Splatoon.
lot of people love those
All
motion
right.
controls, but I would say that like you know it's kind of cool. You throw like a left hook and the left arm actually curves that way in the game, so it is pretty precise in that regard. But it's not precise in like, all right, I want to hit this guy right there, like, or I want to aim in like this particular angle. Like it's I don't know. It just doesn't feel as accurate in terms of you want to pick this guy apart. It's accurate in like it tracks your arm the right way, you know, like if you're trying to throw a particular punch, it'll do that.
Gotcha.
So what kind of particular punches are you talking about? What kind of motions are you talking about?
So like you can throw like a left hook, you can throw like a straight, you can kind of like curve your arm that way and it'll like curve the punch based on that. And then if you push both hands forward, it'll like throw both arms forward and grab and like do like a throw.
And all the arms, a lot of the different arms have different properties too. So like,
Yeah.
some you throw differently than others.
Mhm.
But when you're actually pressing the buttons, that's when the higher level strategy emerges. Or
I
just
think so.
overall, higher level strategy emerges. And so it's just that added layer of depth of like, oh, there's more to this than we expected.
Well, there's that. There's like when you're doing like when you're matching up your characters against each other. Like every character has their own properties and like abilities and everything. Like Master Mummy, the aptly named Mummy.
That's right. Tom Cruise himself.
He like when he's like the tank character. So when he blocks, he regains health, and then like other ones like their arms automatically charge up their elemental damage. Like because you can charge up your arms and they all have like elemental like aspects about them. Like so this one will have like electricity that'll disable certain arms, and this one will have like fire that'll chip away damage more. And
like
then
if you're taking on a jumping character, you'll want to bring in a different arm with you that can shoot in like a vertical, slice or something like that to get them when they're up in the air and stuff like that.
And the example I gave in the review is like Ninjara is one of like the faster characters. So if you're Ninjara and you see Master Mummy is like up against you, like he's going to be a slow tank who has like a lot of power. So do you want to try to like level the playing field a little bit by choosing an arm with like more power, but that'll slow you down in the process? Or do you want to go like kind of double down on your speed advantage to go around? I actually found that it's better to double down on the speed advantage because like all the tough fights I had in ARMS were against like other faster characters, whereas like the tanks, because like it's such like a punch counterpunch type thing, like it's there are a lot of parallels to like Punch-Out, for example, where it's like you have to like try to figure out what their strategy is, what their weaknesses are, what their their vulnerabilities are, and then capitalize on that based on like. But it's not just like, all right, well that character is weak against this. It's like, all right, those arms that he has are going to be powerful if they hit me, but they take a long time to retract. So I'm going to go around him and then throw a counter punch right as he like throws his punch, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so let's break this thing down. The whole package here.
Okay.
Full $60 package? $50 package?
That's an excellent question, Ben Hansen.
All right, we'll leave it up to the viewer.
I don't know. Yeah.
The arms package, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got, head to head. Is there a single player story mode thing?
Not a story mode. I wish there was. I think it would be awesome. And like Splatoon did a really good job with like taking a competitive game and making a fun story mode that's like
simple, but
who cares what the story was? But like the levels were fun to play through. Like
for the most part, yeah.
It had like little hints of like some of the Mario brilliance, I thought.
Like 6%. Yes.
I'm not saying it's like, all right, this game could have been a Mario game, but like they had like some cool level designs.
There, sure.
I think they could have done similar things with this.
And there's nothing.
There's an arcade mode, so there's Grand Prix mode, which you just fight 10 enemies, kind of like a ladder tournament in like a Mortal Kombat game.
Yeah.
But there are like mini games mixed into those, so kind of like the Street Fighter, like break the car or destroy the barrels. Only this, it's like there's volleyball, there is target smash or skill shot, it's called, and there's hoops. So hoops is like my favorite out of the three. Would you say that was your favorite?
Oh yeah. I like hoops.
So volleyball, you're just it's kind of like beach volleyball meets hot potato. So like you're hitting the ball back and forth using like different, like you can set up yourself for a spike but like if it goes for too long, like so if it hits the ground, it explodes and gives you a point. But if it goes for too long, it starts glowing red, and then it's going to explode soon. So whoever side it's on explodes and gives the other person a point.
That sounds fun.
It's fun. It's not like a long-term mode or anything.
And then you can also play those individually off to the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. And so, but hoops, it's just like you're on a basketball court and you're trying to grab your opponent and dunk them or shoot them through the basketball hoop.
Right.
And that's the whole purpose of the mode. It's so dumb, but it's so much fun because also like it's not just grabbing and dunking. It's like if you do enough damage to them, they go flying off like the springs on the side and then bounce up into the hoop, and you can get a 3-pointer for that.
Kind of a big basketball fan.
This should be like part of your sports column.
Yeah, exactly.
Hoops and v-ball.
One thing actually that made me think about that when you're describing, sort of the lack of a single player, so to speak, it does seem like a thing with the Nintendo games, a lot of the sports ones like your tennis and your golf, where it's a lot about you'll go through this sort of gauntlet to unlock this character, then just do the same thing to unlock this other character. I mean, they seem to have that. We're going to give you a pretty bare experience. I mean, yes, the gameplay, is there, and we might have some mini games and stuff, but some of that other, structure, so to speak, seems to be, to be wanting.
Well, it's. I don't think there's so many things to unlock in this game. Like you can unlock new arms and stuff through. So everything you do, you get these coins based on like, all right, I won a match, I got 4 coins. I got a perfect match, I think you get 6 coins for that. And then when you play online and do like the mini games and everything. And then you use that time or those coins to buy time in this other bonus mini game where it's like a target practice thing, but then like every once in a while, this claw machine will come by and drop presents, like gift wrap presents. And if you hit that with your arms, you get an unlockable arm for a character.
Okay.
So it's like you don't even just, it's not like Overwatch where you go in and you're like, all right, I have 3,000 coins, I can buy this skin. It's like I am putting money into this like machine that's going to give me 30 seconds in this bonus game that allows me to earn things, like earn arms. So every character has 3 arms by default, and like they have different attributes. So when you do this, you can unlock arms from other characters for the other characters. So like Springman has 3 arms, Ribbon Girl has her own 3 arms. There's no crossover initially, but like you can unlock Ribbon Girl's arms for like Ninjara by doing the.
If you want to get freaky.
Yeah, if you really want to go overboard. But it is fun. Like
and there's enough features in this thing where you feel confident people will have a good time if they check it out.
Yeah, and they are saying that they're going to do a lot of post-release stuff. So like maps, I think they said characters and maybe even modes.
Interesting.
Shane and I were talking like we're hoping for skins because that's something the game doesn't have at all. That just seems like it's you can do color swaps with some of the characters, but like it'd be cool to see some of those characters like wearing different shirts or something. I don't know.
Give him a Switch shirt like in Zelda.
It is like what we're saying, where overall it feels pretty bare bones, but like the combat's super fun. Like just going one-on-one, they really nailed it. So.
It's accessible, but there's also a lot of depth, I would say.
Yeah.
Is there anything that surprised you, Kyle? You've seen this game plenty, and now with the finished package, is there anything different
The
or
final
unexpected
boss
here?
is surprising. I don't think we can say what he is.
Yeah, we can't say anything about the bosses, but
it's unexpected. That was cool. Like,
Is it a cameo?
No, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a cameo. There's no like extra Nintendo stuff. Like, there's no Mario themed stuff or Zelda themed stuff, Zelda themed stuff in there or anything. So
Save it for DLC.
was really weird beating the crap out of Toad, though.
you're just lying. What are you? You're just telling a lie.
Killer. So who is it for? Like people are hungry for Switch content. Should everybody check this out? Just fighting game fans?
Yeah, I think it's fighting game fans on Switch is what it is. Like, because like Nintendo doesn't even want to call it a boxing game, though. I think it can. It kind of it's like in the middle between fighting and boxing.
Hang on, what do you mean they don't want to call it a boxing game?
Well, I asked him. I was like, "What?" Because I had that interview with him.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I asked him like, I don't remember what the question was, but I like, do you consider? Because I remember now. I was asking them about Punch Out. Did this start as a Punch Out game?
Right.
And they're like, no, we don't. We see it more as a fighting game. Like they don't even think of it as a boxing game. They're calling it a fighting game.
All right.
So
what else stood up from that interview with the
I asked
producer?
Producer and art director. I asked them a lot about the lore. I really want to know about the lore.
I do too.
And they wouldn't really go into it very much. Like,
Didn't they say something like, "Oh, we'll save it for the game"? But then Shay's played a lot of the game. There's nothing in there.
Well,
Right?
Like there's like in the
no
Grand
story,
Prix mode, there is like an announcer that kind of sets up like, oh well, this guy comes from this area and he's studying to be a ninja.
Help us! This universe is fucked up.
Ribbon Girl is a singer. Well, because they said
like-
that like sometimes people just wake up with these stretchy arms, and the most I got out of Nintendo was me just being like, so isn't that scary? Like the idea that you would wake up with these arms and then you're just forced to go into these tournaments, and they're like, yeah, I think that would be startling, but everyone loves these tournaments, so of course you want to go participate. It's
Also,
like,
I woke up a mummy for Christ's sake.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of concerns in this world that they seem to think are fine.
Speaking of
So
concerns,
it's the darker sequel then. The
Yeah,
sequel setting
arms-
up for the
More arms is what I think it'll be called. Extra arms.
Arms begins. It seemed like NeoGaf really ran with a certain quote from the interview where he asked him
Yes.
about Twintel, which is the hottie body in the game.
That's right. Yeah.
And how did the producer describe the fandom surrounding her?
She has a strong build.
a
Hanson.
strong build.
They said that twice in the interview. Yeah.
Oh my god!
She has a strong build.
And everyone's just enhance straight on that butt.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh god!
Twintel is a cool character though.
Oh really?
Yeah.
She's fun to play as.
Strong.
It's a very strong
Protagonist?
build. Yeah,
Okay.
her build is strong. I don't know if
She was talking about the arms, like the build that you can have
Yeah.
with those.
What did you think of her? Did she have a strong build to you?
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't one of my go-to characters.
strong build,
yeah,
though?
but very,
Okay.
very
Saying
strong
Mummy
build.
might have had a stronger build.
No, I didn't like the mummy.
Okay, all right.
I think Twintel had a stronger build.
This 825. I'm impressed and surprised.
It's fun.
It's a delightful experience.
I'll be
I'll keep
damned.
playing it.
I kind of looking forward to checking this out.
Let's play it.
Looking forward to something playing Switch. Hey Matthew Cotto. So Dirt 4. You
Yes.
were wandering around the office saying, "Hey, who's gonna proof my review? Dirt 4, Dirt 4." And everyone's like, "Hey, get out of here, buddy." And then you said, "Hey, I gave it a 9." And then
right.
people were like, "Oh,
Whoa.
what is this?" Out of the darkness comes a game called Dirt 4. And actually, somebody wrote into the podcast weeks ago. I didn't read it on air because I'm a dickhead, but they said, "Hey, you guys should cover more racing games on the show, specifically Dirt 4." So this is our opportunity.
All right.
What's interesting
It's
about
all
Dirt
on
4?
you, Kato.
Yeah, well, it is a 9, and one of the things I really like about it is, the Dirt franchise, as the name implies, is just sort of, it sounds like this catch-all for like anything that's off-road. It's okay, well, I'm not going to be racing on some track I've raced in Gran Turismo 1,000 times, and there, there's trucks in it, there's rally cars, and so it seems like a pretty straightforward setup, but the great thing about this title, versus some of the other ones they've had in the past, certainly it's current gen or whatever, and looks great and everything, but they've really nailed sort of the career mode aspect of it.
Okay.
And sort of that in combination with its really strong rally component. Now, there was a rally game that Codemasters put out a couple years ago, which I also believe I gave a pretty high score to, Dirt Rally, which was just a great game, but that was, I don't want to say it was a weird genesis, but it started out as early access, and they kind of built on it.
That's
But
right,
when it came
yeah.
out, the racing was all great, but they didn't really have a structure. There wasn't a great career mode. So with the addition of career mode and stuff like that, it makes Dirt 4 really the complete package, for not only off-road racing, but just like its rally component is great. It's got a thing called Rally Cross, which is really good, and also a little bit of kind of freestyle stuff in there as well. So it's not just about it being like, oh, hey, you can play a bunch of different series or whatever. It really nails, what it wants to do.
It's interesting just because so many racing games are going to the open world formula. It's almost, I think there's almost the exact same level of exhaustion within the racing genre as there is in the RPG or adventure genre. It's like, okay, another open world, great. And so this kind of bypasses all that. It just focuses on a focused, great career mode.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, rally racing, point to point. You're not even racing against other cars. It couldn't be more of a, pure is sort of a loaded word, but it's a very distilled experience. It's like, I love rally racing. I love rally racing more than I love just track stuff. You know what I mean? And so it doubles down on that. Or same with like rallycross, of these really short, tight circuits that you do with these, cool cars, kind of supercars. And that again is its own sort of tight experience. But the great thing about it is the way the career mode sort of lays on top of all that. Where it's all about, obviously earning money and gaining reputation, but it's about building out your facilities. It's about saving money and having an organization to fix what's going to break, because breaking that stuff is something that's just going to happen. If you've ever seen me in the office playing a rally game,
You're upside down a lot.
And yes, there's a lot of curses and stuff like that. And don't talk to me right now. I'm busy,
You did scare away Matt Miller in the middle. In his time of need, you were like, not now, Miller.
I think,
No one
if he would have
rejects Mr.
known,
Miller.
He's the purest man in this office.
Not as pure as the racing in Dirt 4, by
That's
golly.
right, yes. So during the rally race, I can't be interrupted. My point being, though, is that I'll flip my car and stuff like that, or you can hear when a part's about to go. You hear this like noise, and your spotter will say something, and you'll be like, what is that? Is a tire going to go down? Is something going to break? And then you think back of, oh, that's right, I didn't fix that part the last stage when I had the opportunity, because maybe I didn't have enough money, or maybe I didn't have enough time because I wasn't hiring a good enough staff to cut down on those repair times.
So there's a really deep sim aspect to it? Is it going to be off-putting for people?
No, that's the thing, is it's I went into the career mode and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm juggling facilities, I'm juggling staff, I'm juggling sponsors, but the way it's presented to you and the way it works is somewhat kind of basic. And so it's not like you're sitting there thinking of like, oh, am I going to do this? Can we do that? What about this guy's name? You're not writing down stuff on a separate piece of paper or something like that. The way it's gated and the way the progression goes, you kind of just feel your way through it, and you'll be like, okay, I'm going to upgrade this, I'm going to upgrade that. Or maybe you don't want to upgrade things. There's things like, for instance, staff morale. So if I get a really good, I don't think it's a kitchen, but there's something to your office where you can add something.
Break room, maybe?
It's something like that. I don't know. You can have a happier staff. A happier staff means they get little modifiers on their abilities. But if you don't want to do that, or if you want to spend your money somewhere else, you can do that. It's not going to break your organization or halt your progress in the game. It's just going to be that one little thing that maybe, might make a difference one way or the other, in a certain situation.
Now, there's no world where you can like walk around this building, right? Is this like an overhead map, or just like menus, or what does it look like?
It's a pretty simple menu.
Okay, just a menu.
Yeah.
That still seems all right.
Yeah, but the way it funnels all into, again, like when you're racing and you realize that, what, I should have, had a staff that could upgrade my part so this part was actually stronger. Maybe it wouldn't be breaking, in the middle of this race. I'm going to lose some time. Of course, if you're a perfect racer, maybe that wouldn't come into play at all. But let's be honest, we're all gonna, ding the fenders here and stuff on this game.
We're only human.
Yeah.
And I can imagine some people will hear that your cars can get damaged that way, and that's just a huge turnoff. But it just makes up for it because you feel so much more attached to both the progress you made throughout your career and to that specific car. Like, oh, my baby's breaking down. Got to take care of this one no matter what.
Yeah, and that's, a part of rally racing in particular, being able to, in rallycross, being able to fix your car, through the different stages is a set-in thing of that world. But I would say that one of the things that Codemasters, through past games and stuff, past series and everything, has been really good at being a pioneer on is basically letting you switch and swap and turn off and turn on all these different assists. And it doesn't The only sort of penalty is, let's say, if you want to do all assists or whatever, is it'll just give you a little less money at the end of the race. So it's really customizable in the sense that if you're just like, you know what, I'm not that good of a racer, but I want to do this or whatever, there's an assortment of all these things you can turn on, turn off, and tweak and everything, so that you're getting the experience that you want.
Yeah, I think I'm interested in this.
I am too.
I love Dice's Rally Sport back on the original Xbox, and I haven't really gotten into a rally game since. Like dabbled here and there a little bit. I think even with like Dirt Rally, but it's on everything.
Yep. It's on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC.
Awesome.
So
Hey,
not
there we go.
Switch.
Not quite Switch. So
Yeah,
sad.
almost everything.
Yeah, you got arms for that side of the fence. Hey, thanks guys. You've been very informative.
Hey,
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Do you want to high five each other out of here? Bye. Hey, welcome Ben Reeves and JV Gwaltney.
Hey, what's up?
I was summoned.
Hey Hanson, I suddenly gained the knowledge that arms is $60.
Oh my gosh, that's a fantastic bit of info. Thank you so much. We
You're
truly
welcome.
are gaming
Really?
informers.
$60?
$59.94.
$60 bills
94?
for that, for arms.
It's fun.
Shay likes it. 825.
Okay.
Hey, Ben Reeves, you're kind of here for color. We're gonna get to
Mostly red.
That's right. We'll get to some Monument Valley too in a little bit, but for now, JV, Fortnite.
Yeah.
It was our cover story years and years ago, almost 3.5 years ago, I believe. We played it for days at Epic. It was a wonderful time. We all had fun, came back, said, hey, this game seems fun. And then it was
And then they
pushed.
sealed it in a vault.
Yes, and it is now emerged from the vault because the alpha we can play of this free-to-play bizarre little builder game from Epic, in theory coming out at some point this year. But what do you think of your time with it so far?
Well, I've only played like 3 hours of it, and what's become increasingly clear the more I've played it is like there's a lot here. There are a lot of systems. It feels super complicated. Like the basic idea is pretty straightforward. Like you're building traps, you're trying to defend random structures from what are basically zombies. I don't remember the name. I don't know if they're just zombies or something, but they're basically
They
zombies.
come from the storm.
Yeah.
I forget if they have a specific name.
Right, but like it's basically just it feels a lot like Orcs Must Die if you complicate the hell out of Orcs Must Die and throw in some Minecraft resource gathering and you put it in like an aesthetic that's similar to Overwatch's kind of character design almost. It's very animated.
Looney Tunes was brought up a lot as a reference point on the cover story, and I do love the look of it. Even after all these years, I think it has a great look. I love how the environment is really, it's like everything's made of jello and it bends and moves so that it just gives some visual interesting representation instead of just punching a tree in Minecraft, eventually it disappears, like little cracks appear, in Minecraft. Right. But in Fortnite, like everything kind of bobs and weaves. And then there's also an upgrade very early on for your character so that there's like random hit spots on the objects you're destroying as well. So if you kind of hit those instead of just any general area, it'll take down the tree or the car faster. It just makes, constant mining interesting. But you're totally right. That is the core of it, is just basically Orcs Must Die Minecraft, which is great. And that's the experience we had a lot at the studio. And then playing a little bit of the alpha myself, it's like, oh, where was that fun again? How do I find it amongst all these menus and systems?
Oh my God, there's so many menus.
It's a lot to digest.
Like, and it's really kind of unnerving. I feel like developers need to get a little bit better at like doing tutorials because it's like, okay, I get this one concept. This is pretty simple, straightforward. And Fortnite does this for about 3 things. It teaches you 3 things. And then it says, okay, here's the 4th thing. And then you open it, and it's this massive crafting menu just filled with weapons and bullets and, like, just structures. Like, what?
And then beyond that, there's, like, the survivors and guardians. And they like each have their own skill tree and different currencies for upgrading. Tutorials are so key. And it just made me think, like, man, I really appreciate Blizzard.
Yeah.
And when it comes to tutorials, at least in the alpha state of Fortnite, Epic is not quite at that Blizzard level of just slowly easing into what I think is the core gameplay, which I still think is fun. But it's going to take a while yet to get used to just all these menus on top of that.
That's interesting. When you guys came back from that cover story like 3 years ago, you all seemed pretty hot on it.
For sure.
And it now sounds like you're maybe a little less hot on it. Like
that's
they've
an
continued to work on it
oversimplification.
for 3 years and just made it overly complicated. Is that what's
the
happening?
core gameplay is still basically the same. It's just it seemed a lot simpler, and it was also because we're seeing what they presented to us, and it was like, hey, they're putting us in these matches and stuff like that. So I think the gameplay is relatively similar. There's like different characters and stuff now, but it just seems like they spent a lot of time building up the UI and the menus and just 1,000 layers of different systems of progression, different currencies, and that's the part where my mind is still reeling, trying to wrap my head around it.
It reminds me a lot of like the first time I played Destiny, and it was like, okay, here's this basic sort of simple concept. Like you have MMO stuff built in with like first person shootery stuff. But then you start messing around with the menus and like trying to learn how the various currencies are spent, like the earliest version of Destiny before they like streamlined all of that.
Sure.
Like that's what Fortnite is reminding me of right now. But and it sounds kind of like, we're taking a crap on it, but it's not. It's just like the first thing I notice is like, this is so complicated. Like it is a game that is going to have like a pretty big investment period for anyone who like wants to get into it because there's just so much to learn.
Yeah, and I don't want to, make it the overwhelming thing here because it is still early access or, this is the alpha version. And we've only, basically all we've done is the tutorial. So just be like, this game is nothing but a confusing tutorial. Don't have that be the takeaway. No. It's just, there's a lot more to learn here than I expected. And probably, to be fair, you can probably bypass a lot of it and just hit like next mission, and make your way through it. But I feel like I'm missing out on a lot. Even like, how do I have all these guns? Where are these coming from exactly?
Right.
I'm out of traps. How am I getting new ones? Do I have to pay for those? Is it like in random, llama boxes?
Well, how do the missions work?
The llama boxes. Let's talk about what works.
Please.
Like I feel, we already touched upon the cartoony style, but it's really good.
Yeah, it's fun.
And it's actually a little funny. Like, it's surprising. Like, there's some lines in there, like, the person leading you around is actually like a robot, sort of like a 1950s looking kind of robot. And she has some funny lines. It sounds like she's actually voiced by Morgana from Persona 5 almost.
Oh, really?
Like
okay.
Cassandra or whatever her name is. Like, it might not be the same voice actress, but it sounds like it. And, like, the game's genuinely funny in a wacky sort of way. And, like, it's not a subtle game at all, but, like, there's a lot of color and like a lot of personality in the characters that you can play and like interact with. Like it's pretty funny, and like the shooting's fine. It's not great, but there's power behind like every shot.
It's not going to feel like Gears of War, ladies and gentlemen, but I agree. It feels fine. But yeah, the personality was something more than I was expecting too. There's a surprising amount of writing. Again, this is like early stages, so they will walk you through a lot. But even like you did that mission, I take it with like Lars's van, where there's like, oh man, there's quite a bit of dialogue here, much more than I expected. I just kind of wanted and was expecting more of just that core kind of Minecraft throw you in experience. Right. But yeah, they're setting up a lot of stuff, and they kind of have like this meta layer where the opening of the game now is like from a first person perspective, not playable, but then you're like looking at this monitor, and so in theory you're like this commander. Almost like an XCOM layer removed from the action, and you're just like guiding the other people through it. So just weird little personality twists. But yeah, the writing, it's not obnoxious. They're going for a lot of jokes, but even if they don't land, it's not the biggest deal. But there's little personality quirks, like the constructor character who I've been playing with. Like he says, he has a Larry Sanders reference where he goes, "Hey now." Every now and then it's like, all right.
Yeah.
Okay,
there was also that. Like a Bob the Builder reference.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, they're dating. They're dating this joke pretty hard.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You played Robo Recall, right?
Yeah.
I was curious how much overlap there is between the two because I haven't played that yet. But even like when it's introducing some of the enemy ghoul characters and stuff like that, they're presented in kind of that motion graphics, Borderlands style. Is there any personality or style overlap between these two?
Not as far as like character introductions, but in terms of like, action-packed sort of humor. Like there's a lot of like violence and whatnot, not like gory violence or anything, but a lot of the humor is invested in, okay, here are these stupid, shambling monsters I have to dispatch, and sort of the crazy weaponry you can get in both games. There's some overlap there, but I wouldn't say stylistically they're the same or like even like related necessarily. They just happen to be in sort of that same wacky genre of like, okay, violence and humor.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to figure out who the audience is for this game, and I think it has a chance of like catching that Garden Warfare crowd, which I think is bigger than we would care to admit. But it all comes down to how well it can ease people into these systems, and maybe all those systems, it's a genius way of hooking people to keep them around with daily rewards, stuff like that. Offering relatively easy ways if they want to spend money, but I'm scared it's going to turn people away in the state it is right now.
Yeah, you'd think that, but man, there's a surprising amount of people who play Paragon still. So, like people play Epic's games. Like they give them a chance just like on the history of that company's output, which I feel is mostly positive. like more often than not, they have really good games. So
for sure.
There's a lot of people who play EVE Online, and that game's just series
Impenetrable.
of like,
And look, Fortnite, it's not exactly EVE Online. Again, you can get into it. It's just more complex than I imagine. Even like the skill tree system, it kind of looks like the sphere grid from like Final Fantasy X, where it's like, holy cow, this is a whole dimension I didn't expect.
I think that appeals to a certain crowd, a certain like engineering mindset. I just like to know how that works and like figure out the systems. And some people really geek out on that, and like more power to them. I guess.
I think Joe Juba could really sink his teeth into Fortnite more than he could possibly expect. Yeah.
Is this going to be free to play?
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Because I wonder if they're sort of relying on the internet to kind of come up with those tutorial systems and just give people a complicated system so they can dig into it online together.
Yeah, it could be. I'm not too sure, but I'm really curious to see what it looks like when it officially launches. Fortnite 1.0 finally. I'm excited to play it again when I'm at that core, because I still am excited about that core, and building up a base is still fun. I think the building, I don't know. What did you think of the building going in for the first time there, JV?
I'm not crazy about the building menus themselves, because like you're basically tabbing through like all the walls and stuff that you can build, and you're seeing like a literal blueprint for them, where you can place them. And it's kind of weird how the game gates you. Like you can't build something everywhere. Like sometimes we'll be like, no, you can't build this here, and it's like, well, why not? And there's no reason given.
Like, sure that wasn't just tutorial?
No, this was a different stage. This wasn't just tutorial. This was like when I was roaming around. Sure. It's like, you can't build a wall here. I'm like, I want to build a wall wherever I want. But I will say that like the animations for like the buildings coming together are so cool. Yeah. Like it's like seeing, it reminds me of like sort of a spacesuit kind of animations, and like, more modern things, like how Iron Man's suit comes together in the MCU movies.
Okay.
Like just how those assemble together, and how in Dead Space, like Isaac's suit comes together. Like, the buildings remind me of that for some reason, like how they're constructed.
Quickly assembled. Yeah. And the buildings.
Like a transformer.
Yeah, they're like Transformer, but in high detail.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like you see every bit come together. It's not just like, oh, this building emerges out of nowhere. Like you see it rise up from the ground, like panel by panel.
And I think it's tricky when you're just playing by yourself to be under attack, and then also focused on building. Like it happens so many times where it's like, oh, I guess they are attacking my core. There's a gap somewhere in this wall. I got to go find it. Okay, no, I got to remember how to do this, and then I want to make it a lower wall so I can still shoot over it. But I think it really shines in co-op when one person can just focus on like repairing and building out different layers of your fortress and adding new traps and stuff like that. So I think co-op, the core of it, is still going to shine. But I'm excited to play more of it.
Can you play as the zombies if you want, or are you always the
not in modes that we've played? You can.
Okay. Yeah. But anyways, any other hot takes on Fortnite?
I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to more of it. I'm still concerned about the complexity, and like you said, like just how many people are going to get involved in this and like be turned away at the same time. It's
tutorials are really hard.
Yeah, that's so hard.
I definitely want to play more. Hey, Kyle, I wanted to talk to you just about a lesson I think the industry and fans of games learned this week with Pokemon.
Yes.
They set up a Pokemon Nintendo Direct, and the hype machine was triggered. Everybody jumped in their hype machine tractors and put it to full tilt. Everyone was ready to go. Like, Pokemon on Switch, here we go.
Yeah.
Sun and Moon was last year, but still, this is going to happen. It's going to be a port. It's going to be anything. And then it was Pokken port coming to Switch and Ultra Sun and Moon.
And Gold and Silver on Virtual Console. Don't discount that.
Secretly, maybe the most exciting thing in that bunch.
Yeah.
But not Switch related.
But not Switch related.
But they had a lovely shot video where a lot of people were really enjoying the shit out of playing Pokken.
I think, man, they did not do a good job pulling off the Band-Aid, I guess you could say, for like, because they started that direct. They were like, hey guys, Switch, right? We all know Switch. We love Switch. Guess what? First new Pokemon for Switch. Here we go. Pokken Tournament. It's like, you guys should have started that direct with the words Pokken Tournament and not the word Switch. You should have just been like, hey, you guys like Pokken Tournament, right? Well, we're porting it to Switch,
Or like,
they
hey,
should have started
this
there.
isn't going to be what you want.
Just started with those words, yeah.
Could you have picked a different Pokemon game that people would have been less enthusiastic about?
Pokemon Shuffle.
Yeah.
First Switch game.
What is that?
Pokemon Shuffle. It's like a puzzle game. See, you don't know Shuffle? Everyone knows Pokemon Shuffle.
I don't know Shuffle.
Mystery Dungeon.
Do the Poke Shuffle?
The new Mystery Dungeon.
Oh man.
Some people like those games. I think the first ones were kind of cool.
And it does not help that. So if you're not familiar, I'm sure you are familiar with this, but the Pokemon Company press site accidentally listed Switch as one of the consoles for Ultra Sun and
How
Ultra
do you
Moon.
make that crucial mistake?
Yeah, and understandably, everyone was like, "Well, wait, Switch is right here. Like it's come to Switch," and then they had to release, which to their credit, like they released very quickly. They're like, "That was a mistake. It is not coming to Switch." You guys know that thing that you want, that you got your hopes up for? That's not gonna happen. Just so you know.
But what is happening is Pokemon Ultra Sun, Pokemon Ultra Moon. We talked all about that game at Game Club last year.
Yeah.
Went very in depth on those, but it was very quick. They said like, "Oh, new Pokemon are coming to it," and also it's a new storyline set there. But they didn't pitch it as like a Pokemon Black and White 2 situation,
which is the not strange, but is the line that everyone's drawing between it, because Black and White 2 released for the DS when the 3DS had already come out. So now that's why everyone's saying, well, this is kind of the same thing. Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon is coming out when on the old handheld system, when there is a new handheld system available. Which is true. Like I don't know. I guess they want to pocket, like if they're coming to Switch with like a big Pokemon game, like the next entry and the next core Pokemon RPG, like I think they would rather just be the Switch thing rather than a Sun and Moon port, because that seems doable. That like a Sun and Moon port could come to Switch.
Yeah,
which is what everyone was expecting, what everyone kind of thought when they first showed Sun and Moon on screen. Like there were so many tweets that I saw that were like, I'm tempted to play Sun and Moon on Switch, and then like 5 minutes later they'd have a follow-up tweet that was like, oh wait, it's not coming to Switch.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm curious. I guess Nintendo on the Switch, they ported like some iOS games into the new eShop and stuff like that. But I wonder if Nintendo wouldn't even want to port a 3DS game just to keep that visual bar a little bit higher than just shoving some 3DS software over there.
They want to keep them separate. Like they still consider them. I think a lot of people play Switch in handheld mode. Like that, the majority of me playing Switch is in handheld mode, but I think Nintendo still looks at it as a home console, and the Pokemon Company as well for that. Because it is important to note that they are very different entities.
That's true. So this year, Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. The only silver lining here is that like, okay, that's going to take some new work to like, write new dialogue, same world and stuff, but maybe now a bulk of Game Freak can move on to other stuff. Would you put money on Switch, finally Pokemon RPG, on consoles coming next year?
No.
I also would not.
I would say 2 to 3 years.
Same here.
But
really?
Yeah, I mean, the 3DS has to, unless they're going to do a new, like, that'd be so weird, though. Like, if they want to do another handheld, like a follow-up to 3DS, because the Switch is not a follow-up to 3DS. Like, if they want to do another dual-screen handheld, Pokemon would go there, but I mean, they're done, right?
Are they going to go another year without Pokemon? They did it a little while ago. I remember when they unveiled Yokai Watch, but it's pretty rare that we have a year without
Sun
Pokemon.
and Moon was the best-selling Pokemon ever, right? I mean, fastest-selling, certainly.
Something like that.
I don't know.
I'm curious how that would have sold without Pokemon Go, though.
That's a good point, yeah.
Like a year without Pokemon Go.
I just don't know.
Really
I don't
for
think it needs to be an annualized franchise. I think people are happy to play Pokemon games for 2 years. Like, I think people are still playing Sun and Moon,
So we're going 2019 for that first sweet Game Freak Pokemon RPG on Switch.
Yeah, which is that's 2 years?
Yeah.
That's the earliest. I would say 2 years is the earliest.
You want to
Same
take a
here.
guess what it'll be called?
Great question, Reese. Great question.
Pokemon Flip and Turn on
No.
Switch.
Okay, it's a good
No,
guess.
that's
good guess.
very bad. That's a pretty bad
Well,
guess.
my theory, which I brought up on Game Club, is that they're remaking Red and Blue, because that would, spoiler guys, for Sun and Moon, they kind of tease going back to Johto. Sorry, right? That's where
Kanto.
Kanto. Johto is Gold and Silver, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, they kind of tease characters going back to Kanto at the end of Sun and Moon. Like an important
That
character
is
was
true.
like, oh,
That's
we got to
true.
go back to Kanto. So even that was my assumption, was like, oh, I wonder if they're going to remake Red and Blue, and maybe that would be the first Switch Pokemon.
Call it something like Fire Red, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds pretty
Or
good.
Like Leaf Green.
Oh, because the green one.
That would that's a really solid theory. I like that idea, Kyle.
2019 Pokemon.
If they just called it Pokemon Red
Rouge
and
and what's another like similar to Blue?
Blue, Alpha Sapphire. Hey, Reeves,
Hey, what's up?
Monument Valley 2 came out.
Surprisingly,
The shocking twist.
nobody
yeah.
knew it was planned. I don't know if that's good marketing or not, but
I think for iOS
I
stuff,
like it.
you got to do it. You're not going to set your calendar for an iOS game
Not a
coming
whole
out in
lot of
4
options.
months.
unless
Yeah.
it's like a Mario game, maybe.
This is one of the most beloved iOS little puzzle games, not platformer.
No, just
No,
puzzle.
it's pretty much a puzzle game. But yeah, it was on House of Cards or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin
so-
Spacey is the game's biggest fan. Also, there's a
huge puzzle nut.
confusing Game Informer line. Do you guys want to run through it with that Monument Valley stuff? Do you remember this?
No.
I
So,
do remember that
in-
because Jeff wrote the review.
So Jeffem wrote the review for Monument Valley 1, which then the review for that was posted in the same issue as our Call of Duty Advanced Warfare cover,
Right.
which featured an interview with Kevin Spacey
Because he was in the Call of Duty.
because he was in that
Right.
Call of Duty game. And then in theory, this is where it gets to be a stretch, but in theory, he might have looked at that issue of Game Informer. His interview was in it. And then there was a storyline in House of Cards later on about his character in House of Cards being so influenced by this beautiful review of Monument Valley that he read in a video game magazine that he like. I don't watch House of Cards, but he somehow incorporated that
Well,
reviewer
into
into the
the game.
storyline.
I've seen
Yeah.
the scene. Do you guys watch House of Cards? Any of you guys?
No.
I
Is
mean,
that season 3? I can't remember. I haven't seen
I
that
think so.
season.
Because I watched the scene, and the idea is that like he reads an amazing review for Monument Valley. He plays the game, he loves it, and he brings that reviewer in to help him like write a speech or something like that.
Okay.
And there's a scene where he's talking to the speechwriter. And I tried to reach out to Netflix and House of Cards to try to interview the guy that wrote that episode,
Oh, really?
but it was a dead end. They didn't want to talk about
Oh,
it at
lame.
the time.
But
So,
the reviewer character in the show looks exactly like Jeffem.
That's right.
yes,
He's just as feisty in every way. No, that's
Small little Italian guy
Such
that
a-
loves pizza.
he
Yeah.
never stops talking about pizza. Anyways, Monument Valley 2. How is it? Is it like the first one?
It's very much like the first one. In fact, I like the first one a lot, and if you like the first one, you'll probably like this one. It's still that sort of like touch, click, and swipe gameplay. So you're moving a character around these like impossible environments that look like an MC Escher painting, and which is kind of cool in and of itself. Like the puzzles aren't super hard. You're mostly kind of like sliding things around or maybe twisting a nozzle, and it'll rotate a thing around. But because the thing's so impossibly constructed, you like kind of don't know where it's going to move. If that makes sense. So
Sure.
you're basically trying to navigate your character through a maze of these like weirdly constructed environments, and that in itself is like fun, and just like marveling over how these environments were constructed. I'm just like, I don't understand game code to begin with, but like when I look at Call of Duty, I could be like, yeah, I understand how somebody might be able to build that, even though I don't know how it's built. But with Monument Valley, you're like, this is like blows my mind that anybody can even like draw something like that, let alone make something that's interactive and you can like move
It's like-
the objects
It's
around.
Kevin Spacey good.
I'm Kevin spaced out by this whole
No.
game.
So is it just like you were
don't
so
give away your headline for the review.
I'll save it for my speech I'm going to write at Game of Thrones in 2 years.
Jeffem's gonna write it for him.
Yeah.
So is it just that the first one was so charming that you just wanted more of that content? This feels like that. Do they shake anything up where it's worth checking out if you weren't in love with the first
Yeah,
one?
one of the biggest problems, I don't know if you can say that, but biggest problems with the first one was that it was fairly short. It was only a couple hours long. This one is also only a couple hours long. So for $5, 2 hours, like I think that's a good benefit because those 2 hours are really fun. This game, the only thing it really adds that the first one I felt was lacking is maybe a light story. You're a character who's moving through this environment and you're followed around by a little girl. And so it's like kind of a mother-daughter relationship that's told wordlessly. But it's
Monument Valley.
Monument Valley, yeah, that's right. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of a sweet little story about like a child growing up and kind of finding your own way.
Like dialogue?
There's little interstitial text
There's
moments.
interstitial bits, but like the characters don't talk.
There's also like sweet moments where the mother and child get like separated over the
Yeah.
course of a puzzle, and you have to bring them back together. And it's done such a way where they like embrace, and it's cute and it's heartwarming.
There's still those weirdo crows walking around.
You're
good.
further than I am. I'm
Actually,
sure.
no.
No crows.
No crows.
I'll be damned. Well, that sounds great. Check it out if you like Monument Valley. You guys want to move on to some great emails?
Yeah, let's do it.
I can
Yes.
And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have some great emails from the community here. These lovely people sent in emails to podcast@gameinformer.com. They had questions, they had comments, they had concerns, they had words of wisdom. And they sent it to podcast@gameinformer.com. JV, don't look at me like that. I'm going to read through every single email here. Then we're going to choose our absolute favorite, and we're going to ship them out something very nice.
All right.
The nicest thing they could possibly imagine. So
And
look
what
forward
is
to
it
that.
this week, Van Hansen?
This week, it is new video guy Leo Vader's shoes. We're going to tie them together and toss them over to them. Anyways, Nathan Jones from Ohio says, what is your least anticipated game for E3? Basically, what game do you expect to be revealed, focused on, that should just be put out to pasture already? I feel like Nathan, you're getting out of the gate with negativity
Brutal.
Like
for E3.
some farming simulator in some corner of the show. maybe.
Well, yeah,
it needs spotlight though. You can't hate on this stuff.
So we're talking
crawling through
like
the caves.
something that's like on stage at like a press
Yes.
conference that
Yeah.
we're like, all right, do we need to spend time on this?
Yes.
something that actually like gets press conference coverage that I'm totally not interested in is Days Gone. Like I'm just not into that kind of gameplay. Like I'm kind
But
of.
isn't the idea of Sony getting behind new project, new IP, AAA, that should be exciting.
I'm
right?
all for that. I think that game, what I've seen of it so far, has not turned me on.
It looks like subpar Last of Us.
Yeah.
Whenever I watched it, I'm like,
They still have to
Alright.
sell us on it.
Yeah.
Like what we saw, we're like, okay, why keep going? Tell us
Yeah.
more, maybe.
I would
Or
be
tell- or
happy
tell us less.
to never see any more gameplay footage of Sea of Thieves.
Really?
Ever again.
Is it just because of the way they present it with the people being like, "Whoa, look out, waves on the right"?
No, it just looks bad too. Like that's
Yeah.
part of it. It just doesn't look good.
It just looks
I will
silly.
say, of all the like fake co-op chatter, I feel like Sea of Thieves had the best because they did have actual like fans that they brought in. Where Ubisoft is always like,
They had
"All right,
YouTube
guys,
stars.
let's do this."
Tango on the left.
Yeah, which however.
None of them
That
have
was
ever
pretty
still
good.
like
That was-
topped how bad the original Destiny one was though with that co-op trailer. Like that dialogue was just so bad.
Oh, that's right. When they're like going into the wall for the first time and like talking to the ghost and stuff. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's not good.
There's always, I love press conferences. I love the art of
It's
presentation.
my favorite part of it.
But there's always, it's cliche, but there's the one chunk, just the EA Sports chunk.
Oh boy.
And I'm sure there's a lot of fans out there for those games, and it's a gigantic part of their profits. But every year, it's always like, okay, how long do we got before Pele gets off the stage?
It's the part where your brain shuts down where you're like, yep, I know exactly like what this is going to be.
Kato's
Go ahead.
got it covered. Don't
Oh,
worry, guys.
I wonder too. Like, do people like Kato and Bertz get excited about that section? Or
You don't
are they
see
just
them?
equally-
I think they do.
They're like
Yeah.
jumping up and down. It's like Kim watching a new Kingdom Hearts trailer. Like
Yeah.
Bert's is jumping off the walls.
Oh.
Yeah, don't you wonder what that squealing sound
They
is
look
every year?
uncomfortable because of that tent in their pocket. Like, that miniature tent.
Anyways.
We go camping during E3.
There's always like the Tom Clancy Ubisoft stuff. I'm not that into, even though I love Rainbow Six Siege in the end. But during those segments, I'm always a little bit checked out. But I don't
Just
think
Dance,
there's going
I
to be
guess.
one. Just Dance, at least it's always they have
That's
people
fun.
jumping around in the
Yeah,
halls
yeah.
and stuff. Like it's kind of fun to watch.
Some dumb music or something.
I-
You
I-
excited for Detroit Become Human?
I am. That's David Cage's new game. I wonder how much time they're going to devote to it.
That looked really bad.
It's
last
more
year.
than we
press conference.
expect. I think like it'll be longer than we have any reasonable.
I just get
expectation
so
for it to be.
excited just the idea of seeing more of that. Of that, I don't even think it's going to be good, but
Oh.
just seeing that in action.
It's going to be interesting. That's
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I'm
It'll
really
be
looking
interesting.
forward to.
They can only go up, you guys.
Dude, you can't go much higher than the Navajo chapter from Beyond Two Souls. It's amazing. JV, are you a David Cage kind of guy?
I like the first half of Indigo Prophecy,
Okay.
and I can appreciate Heavy Rain.
No, you really seem like a real Cage head. I'm surprised.
Cool.
Cage head.
Yeah.
Okay, Jed.
I'm really looking forward to playing Detroit. Okay, here's just let's go. What does Sony open with? What does Sony close with?
Oh, good
You
question.
want to go around the table?
No, let's just
I'll
group.
steal Dan Tax.
Sure.
He's which I think is a pretty good guess is that they open with Bloodborne 2. They
Mhm.
confirmed the strongest rumor right away.
Is that really the strongest rumor?
I think you want to
Well,
like.
to me, it's the one, I don't know if it's like the biggest one that everyone like, oh, but it's the one that I feel like everyone's the most confident about. If that makes sense.
And it's the one that makes like the most sense.
Yeah.
I'll put money on it not being there.
I think
Just
you
not
want
being
to
there at
hold
all.
off.
Yeah.
All right.
I think if it's there, they would close with it.
You
I think you want to hold off on like a big
Nah,
surprise.
they're
at
gonna
the end.
close on The Last of Us, right?
No, I think they would
No.
open with The Last of Us.
Yeah, that's
Yeah?
what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they open on The Last of Us, God of War shows up in the middle, and then Bloodborne at the end.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I disagree with almost everything. I think people always, not that I'm a pessimist, I'm a little bit of a pessimist, but I'm trying to be realistic about this stuff. I think people set their sights way too high. I don't think.
That's fair.
I think they might
I mean,
throw
Pokemon
it.
Direct that we just talked
Exactly.
about. Right?
It's
Yeah.
exactly that situation. I think they might have a passing reference to Last of Us Part 2, but they have Lost Legacy, Uncharted. I bet they open with Lost Legacy set piece.
Mhm.
It's going to be impressive. Then they close with God of War.
think so.
But they
Yeah.
didn't they have Last of Us last year?
That was
They
at
closed
Yeah.
PSX with.
Oh, that was
Correct.
PSX.
Yes,
Okay.
but that game is still so early, and they should be. It's nice to like get it out of the way, acknowledge that they're doing it,
Get
dispel
excited.
all rumors of like, oh, is it going to happen? Is it not? Get people excited, but it's still so early in development. And when they have Lost Legacy so close to being done, I don't think they'd want to split the focus any more than they already have between those two.
Makes
So
sense.
that's my prediction.
Maybe.
Microsoft, open close.
Scorpio.
Well, it sounds
right?
like Halo's not going to be there, right?
Yeah,
that's
Halo's not
strange,
gonna be
isn't
there.
it?
Close with a teaser though.
Well, they said that Halo would be there in some capacity, but it would not be Halo 5.
Okay.
They said something would be during that presentation.
For sure, Forza running on Scorpio towards the middle.
yeah.
Would they want to get out of the gate with
I think-
just like, here is the Scorpion?
Scorpio release date price like right away. I think.
So you don't think they would show a game at the very beginning? Usually they have
I
something.
think so. Microsoft is such a mystery for this show. Like they have Crackdown and like.
Okay, so
Sea
lights
of
go
Thieves.
down, and then just a spotlight on a pedestal showing the Scorpio.
That'd actually be kind of
Yeah.
cool, actually.
I mean,
think
that's
of it.
their biggest card, right?
Just like sexy close-ups on like some
That's how
motherboards and stuff.
Do you guys remember the 360 reveal?
No,
They did the MTV thing with Elijah Wood, and they had it like under a curtain, and Elijah
Spyro
Wood,
himself?
Spyro himself, that's right, and his buddy Gary Oldman was there with him.
Okay, so it's,
And he pulled off a curtain to reveal like the Xbox 360, and that's how they started it. And then they showed like Perfect Dark. It was like an MTV TV. It was like on TV. It wasn't at E3 or anything.
here's my prediction: Crackdown 3
To
opens,
open, yeah.
just ton of insane chaos. Forget all the processing
Buildings
taking place in the
toppling.
cloud. Yeah, right after
Recalling September 11th.
sure, all that
Two
stuff,
buildings crashing.
and then cutting right to the stage saying this was running on Scorpio.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Rip off the blanket, show it, and then close on Halo tease.
I was going to say they'd close on Crackdown. Because didn't they say Halo was not going to be there?
Yeah,
Well,
Halo.
Well, that's
wants
what we
to-
say, like some form of it, maybe some cryptic tease. But
Yeah.
outside of that, what else would it be?
They don't
Also,
have a lot.
I'm going on a limb and saying some sort of Age of Empires announcement.
Oh.
That Twitter account's been very active for the last 4 months. There's got to be
Scale-
something going on.
Scalebound 2 announced.
no.
Skip right to the sequel.
Yeah, they need to resurrect something. They need a property to come back.
Another Tomb Raider.
Or
They're probably bringing back
exclusive.
Phantom
Ooh.
Dust.
Bring back a. Oh, that's good. The
Yeah.
third-party stuff is a good point. Like,
Yeah, I bet they are
Tomb
going to
Raider.
dish out a lot of cash for those exclusives. That's a great point.
I was thinking this is kind of like pie in the sky, being way too optimistic. This is really what I want more than anything else. I was talking to Reeves yesterday, I think, because Reiner was wearing a chair shirt. It made me think
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe Shadow Complex 2 would be at E3 and be on Microsoft stage. I'm like going in there with like low expectations, but chair's been pretty. They're working on something with J.J. Abrams. We know that,
Spyjinx.
right? Yeah, but they've also like they brought Shadow Complex to PC recently and made a big deal about it, gave it away for free. They've been talking about Shadow Complex a lot themselves lately.
I think it's the Last of Us Part 2 situation, though.
Yeah.
Like, they have Spyjinx to focus on. That they got to get that thing out
Like
the
I
door.
said, that's
whatever it
me.
is.
That's more what I want than
Sure.
what I really expect.
I also
to be
said this the other day. I was like, if I were Microsoft, I'd be like, well, Nintendo's not going to make Metroid. Let's just make Metroid, but we'll call it Metroid. And just like it'll be like a man bounty hunter, and he's like fighting these aliens.
And this is why you come to Game Informer. It's this kind of hot analysis like Metroid.
You heard it here
super
first.
duper Metroid. Super
Lord.
duper Metroid.
Ultra Metroid.
Nintendo.
Okay.
A lot of theories.
Just all Odyssey.
I think it's
think it's,
Odyssey, Rabbids. What else we
Anything,
got?
you think they'll have any reveals?
Great
Yes.
question.
Yeah. I think they'll have some Switch stuff that we don't expect.
No Smash Brothers port. you
I
guys
think
think?
Smash Brothers port.
Maybe
Yeah.
that. If
Yeah.
okay, if it's a reveal, it's probably a port. I don't think they'll have any like new games like we haven't heard.
No, I think
well,
so.
Rabbids, I think, would technically count as a reveal coming from Ubisoft, right?
Yeah.
But outside of that, I don't think we're seeing retro. I don't think we're seeing next levels, next game.
Retros, they're due, man. Like,
What
Tropical
else
Freeze
does
was
Nintendo have for the
2014.
next couple years? If they shoot everything off this year, I think they need to save some of those. I mean, this year we're getting a Mario and a Zelda. You have to
Yeah.
hold on to whatever you have for the drought coming up, right?
Yeah.
That is crazy to think. Like, I wonder when the last year that we had Zelda and Mario, like big Mario, out in the same
Core,
year.
like, yeah. What was Link to the Past within the first year of the Super Nintendo's life, or was that? That's the question. I'm not sure, but
Man,
that could be
that's
it.
way back. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It really is going back.
I'm really excited to see the audience reaction to Rabbids. Like I'm wondering if it's gonna be like the Halo Wars reaction that they had at the game show, where that came on and no one like clapped or anything. It was just dead silence. Like we're waiting for the next thing.
Again, I'm a champion for that game.
They
Sight
might-
unseen, I think it's going to be better than it could
They
be.
might show it off, and it might be like, you know what? This isn't as bad as it sounded.
I think that's
fun-
exactly
actually
what
fun
it is.
I
party
hope
game,
that-
probably.
That would be great if they did that.
Yeah. There we go. Lowered expectations for everybody. Who is this? This is Josh Jones now, not Nathan Jones. This is Josh Jones from Ohio. Very confusing. He says, "Hey, GI crew, E3 is known for being the biggest video game convention, and many notable people will be there from the industry. Who from the gaming industry do you want to talk to and to see the most at E3? From interesting game developers to an old Game Informer employee, I sure wouldn't mind seeing some video footage with Dan Reichert and Tim Turry. Thanks for the input. Can't wait for E3. Who are you guys looking forward to seeing at E3?
Dan Reichert and Tim Tooze.
Yeah, let's get those guys.
I'm sure they'll be around. Yeah, we'll see if we can get them in on anything. The shooting the tour is always fun because we run into so many people along the way. But it is just like, for me, it's seeing people that I haven't seen for years, like developers from old cover story trips that I went on and stuff, and just, you know, shaking their hand and saying, "Hey, it turns out I liked this game you eventually put out. Okay, bye." That stuff's always fun.
And
Yeah,
they
I was
said,
like running into random people that I didn't know I was going to run into. Like we ran into Warren Spector one year, and like that was kind of fun. Or
Yeah.
Tim Schafer one year. Like so, those are fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird too for us. I think most of us at the table have probably met most of our childhood idols. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's like, oh, I really want to meet Miyamoto. I've done that. And
But
it'd be
still-
cool to see him again. But yeah,
I still have that
buddy.
thing of like seeing Kojima on the floor and my heart gets all fluid. Like, holy
Yeah.
crap, I said Kojima. Then I have to remember, oh yeah, I spent a day with him in Tokyo. We filmed a bunch of stuff, but still, it's like so exciting to see him from a distance.
Speaking of him specifically, he's not going to be there, right? Like they said,
Death Stranding won't
They had-
be there. I can't imagine
maybe
that
he
he
will.
No,
won't be
he
there.
will
just for
be
fun.
there.
he will personally.
Yeah,
be there.
because he's
Okay.
doing something with like a film panel one of the nights at
Oh,
E3
really?
where he's
Okay.
talking to like the director of Skull Island, I think.
Who's doing the Metal Gear Solid movie?
Ooh.
Yeah, so he'll be
Sounds
there
cool.
doing that.
That'd be cool to see him for
Yeah.
sure.
Definitely, that'll be great. Also, we are going to have developers on the podcast, so that'll be fun to get a bunch of different people together. Should we talk about our overall plans for E3?
Yes,
Let's do
Sure.
it. So we talked about it a couple weeks ago on the show, the idea of spamming your guys' feed, audio listeners specifically, with a bunch of Game Informer podcasts. So that is what we're going to be doing. In theory, tech permitting, it'll be great. So in theory, we're going to be for sure streaming out starting at 7:30 Pacific on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. On Monday, we're going to try and do like a big press conference recap. That one will be starting later, 9:30 Pacific. So if you want to watch the Game Informer show live from our wonderful hotel room suite, you can do that. Otherwise, we'll be archiving that on YouTube and then also making the audio version available as quickly as possible so you won't be too far behind. So it's going to be like editors coming in every night to kind of recap what they saw, the coolest, behind closed doors demos, stuff like that. And then groups of game developers every night. Every night's going to be good. I'm excited for Tuesday night. I think we have some good guests. And from there, it only gets better. So it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little bit loosey-goosey. It'll be technically only the second time we've done the Game Informer show live. And not that we're editing this thing too much. Like a couple of Kyle's bad jokes this episode we cut out. But
like this one.
great. But it's going to be a little bit sillier, a little bit more loose. So I hope you're ready for a lot of Game Informer content next week. It should be fun.
And then for all the press conferences, we'll
Yes.
be commentating those as well. Like I think JV will be on some of those.
Yeah,
right?
JV, me, and Dan. Dan Tack and the Jeffs will be handling
Yeah,
that.
so they'll be back in Minneapolis. So if you want to watch the press conference along with those guys, tune in at those times. We'll have a story on the site saying when those are all happening, but it should be fun. And then Leo Vader, new video guy, will be back here streaming those. It should be a great time. Let's see. This is Stefan from Overblood. Hello, Stefan from Overblood. My question is, what are some games that you would like to super replay but haven't gotten a chance to? Please
good
explain why.
Mega Man X.
How quickly could you get through that?
1.5 episodes, maybe 2.
All right.
I could get it down to 1 if I prep.
Yeah, that'd be
think so.
fun.
Demon's Souls?
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, because we actually did a Chronicles, maybe 2 Chronicles episodes of that. And that was when I was first here. Or maybe, that was like 2 months
That was a
when
while
I was
ago.
here. Yeah, it was me, Kyle, Reiner, and Tack. And it was really fun. Tack had one lewd, incredibly bad joke that like sent me almost falling out of my seat.
Can you recount it here?
No. I'm not going to say it here. You should just go watch it because we have it up uncensored. But you should go watch it.
All right.
But I'd love to like actually finish that, and I think it's doable because it's the shortest of the Souls.
Yeah.
Like it's you could I mean you could technically probably do it in like 20 hours or something.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Reeves, what do you want?
Good
More
question.
than anything
It's-
in the world.
Well, I don't know. Kyle, am I allowed to say?
I think I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I just
Just
because
say
we've been
Just
talking
say
about
it,
it.
man.
The one of the only Zelda games I've never finished is Four Swords Adventures.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I want to do that.
And I think that'd be a lot of fun to get 4 people together and play through it. I
Like-
don't know how like hard technically to stream
Yeah.
it is, but
Well,
we want
it's
to do it
just-
right, like 4 Game Boy Advances,
Right.
a GameCube, and like really play it the way it was meant to, / nobody actually played it that way.
It'd be
Right.
really hard because seeing the screens in the Game Boy Advances is, I think, crucial to watching a video of that.
Really? Okay.
I remember we played it. Didn't you play it with us, Reeves, years
Yeah,
ago at
you
Dan
and me.
Reichert's place?
and Tim, I think.
Yeah,
So
and I remember we
we
wanted to
could-
do some sort of streaming video thing with it, but I remember my takeaway from that night is like, oh, this is going to be more complicated.
Okay, here we go.
than I
5
thought.
TVs, 5 GameCubes, 4 of them with Game Boy players. We can do this.
It's
4
really a
guys.
piece of cake. Yeah, it's going to be
One
great.
pizza.
I was just thinking about this morning. I've never played, nor have I ever really seen that much of Metroid Prime 3.
Really?
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
only Metroid Prime I've finished.
Oh, how confusing.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
It's good. And I like the motion controls in the Wii. You could like whip people and pull off their shields. And
Really?
Wait,
yeah.
did you say it's the only Metroid you played or only Metroid
No,
Prime?
it's the only Metroid Prime I've finished.
Okay.
1 and 2 I've never gotten around to finishing, but 3 I played all the way
Some
through.
people say it's the weakest one, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just
Very interesting.
circumstance.
It's the
that
one I
was
reviewed.
played.
I
Yeah.
reviewed it.
I like it.
Remember
It's a
what you
good
gave
game.
it?
Yeah. I'm 9 something, 9.5 maybe even.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right, there we
Talk
go.
about
So no
overselling.
promises, but that is what is boiling in our minds. But there's a million factors to keep it from actually going on the airwaves, including a lot of man hours. Anyways, Jason here from the most depressing city in the world, Reno, Nevada. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason.
I won $20 when I was there.
Doesn't sound very depressing at
Sounds
all.
like a pretty good city to me. Huh?
Quick question. What is your guys' game of the year so far? I know we're only halfway through, but with Red Dead being pushed to 2018, I don't see any other games challenging Zelda, Persona, Horizon for game of the year. Thoughts?
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Mass Effect Andromeda.
Whoa.
No, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So it seems
Uh,
like that's pretty. I mean,
is
this
that
is the
all of us?
Breath of the Wild group.
It's
but-
probably
yeah.
Breath of the Wild. Battlegrounds is
Really? That's
it's
coming up, huh?
inching closer than I ever could have imagined.
And that's early access, which I mean, that's a big conversation that we'll have internally.
For a Game Informer's official one, it's always a
Yeah.
debate. But I
probably
think
be out before
personal
the end of the
lists,
year,
I feel
right?
like you got it.
Yeah.
But
It's hard not to.
It's
But
complicated.
if you get like Andy and Bert's and Joe Juba down here, I'd be curious to know what they would say. But
Yeah. Well, Joe would be
Mm.
Persona.
That's
yes.
Andy is preemptively Destiny
I'm
2,
sure he'll pick
probably.
Destiny.
Like I don't think it's unfair
yeah,
to say
who
that.
knows? We'll talk
yeah.
more about it, I'm sure.
Plus,
coming
I
up
mean, there's
in the
going to be a
year.
ton of stuff after E3 that will probably like games that will be announced that are coming later that year. So
Yeah,
but yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
Breath of the Wild, I think for most
Yeah.
of us right
I
now,
just
by a long
finished
shot.
Prey the other day, and I'm like, that
Yeah.
might be sitting up there. Like,
Really?
my
You
number
enjoyed it
2
that much?
slot. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, that's a love it or hate it game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Aaron
And
Reeves.
I actually have also been being careful that I don't forget Resident Evil 7 because I really like Resident Evil 7.
Oh,
a
it's
lot.
really good.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, because that's one of those ones that came out early, and by the end of the year, when we're trying to figure out like, oh, what's my top 10? Like, I worry that one I'll forget about it. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
trying to-
like that weird January, February window.
Yeah.
It feels like everything, like, by the end of the year, people have forgotten about that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Carl from Newcastle, Australia says, "Hey crew, hope you're all doing well. Thank you. I was wondering what smaller developers can do to keep their games in the public eye and conversation for longer. For example, I love Night in the Woods and What Remains of Edith Finch. So far, they'll be contenders for Game of the Year for me. Now, some podcasts like yours mention these games for a couple of weeks after release, but then that's it. What can they do or should they do for people to still be talking about these smaller games so they don't get swallowed up and fall by the big releases? Does putting their game on sale help or hinder smaller teams but then get them more attention? What do they do? It's a tough case. I mean, the smaller indie games, I mean, the two he mentions there specifically, they're also shorter games.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's like, how many weeks in a row can you talk about a wonderful 2-hour experience like Edith Finch here, you know?
Yeah, I don't even think like it's a bad thing that people aren't talking about them for the whole year because, like you said, it's 2 hours. So like, how much can you dig into that and say what needs to be said before like moving on to something else? I don't necessarily think they're lost in the rush or anything.
Yeah, I think it just takes, we're always looking forward maybe a little bit too much, and it's nice to reflect back on the year every once in a while and try and call out like, yeah, people should have played Night in the Woods. What the hell?
Yeah.
The exception to this rule is I was thinking of Stardew Valley.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like also a small indie project, but because you can put hundreds and hundreds of hours into that game, I felt like on the podcast at least we talked about
we
it for a
talked
year
about
and
it
a half.
forever.
I feel like that was mostly you.
No,
Yeah,
No, but that's
Yeah, it was.
everywhere. Like
Yeah,
Stardew
that's
Valley
true.
was inescapable
It
everywhere.
was, and I think you're right. I think it was because you could put like 30 hours into it or whatever.
Well,
Just
if
before
you want to
beat
just
it.
skim the
If you want
surface,
to do it
yeah.
wrong.
But I also feel like those both are both Stardew Valley and Undertale, which was also inescapable, had interesting origin stories that people knew about those games. They had sort of like, okay, this guy has built Stardew Valley from the ground up by himself pretty much for years.
Undertale's an interesting exception to that as well, just because maybe it was more
Shorter.
complicated than people expected with the different playthroughs and different endings, so that created much more of a conversation than you would expect from a relatively short game.
Right.
I think the answer is just make an amazing game.
Yep.
That's
And make
I-
it like 100 hours or so.
yeah.
And just
I-
put a
Didn't
crap
work
ton
for
of
Titanfall
secrets in
2.
there.
The longer the better in some cases. I don't know. I think the sale idea is interesting. I try to put it
Well,
out for sale at some point later.
Like
in the year.
whenever, because I had some text adventures and stuff, and whenever I would put them on sale, like Terrorboard the Speedwell did pretty well when it came out, and then people stopped buying it for 2 or 3 months. I was like, all right, I'm gonna knock $1 off of it, and then it made like a fair amount of money when you did that. So
Sure.
I think that does work, especially if you're like on Steam or something and you load it up and you see, oh, Night in the Woods is like 30% off.
Totally.
You know, so yeah, I feel like that does sort of put games.
For sales, I don't know about conversation.
Yeah, that's the
necessarily,
thing.
you know?
Like it doesn't necessarily create conversation.
Yeah, maybe more Twitch streamers or something. Anyways, Nelly has a very relevant question. A few weeks ago, I read an interview with the film director Jordan Von Roberts. Vote Roberts? Vote Roberts. Anyways, he directed Kong Skull Island, in which he talked about directing the Metal Gear Solid movie. In theory, that's what he's working on.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on a Metal Gear movie, especially made by someone who is such a big fan?
I want to see it. I'm not
I
opposed to it.
Want to see
I don't
it.
think it'll
Put me
be good,
down.
but I want to see it.
What about like the fan aspect? Do you think that helps or hurts? That like every interview he's given, he's like, "This is the holy grail. If I f this up, I'm gonna jump into the ocean and drown myself."
Either way, like I feel like, you know, there's a certain issue with like having dogma for being very passionate for source material and stuff. Like Scott Snyder's Watchmen, I feel like that.
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder. Sorry, I feel like that really suffers from like being so afraid to like mess with the adaptation, because except for like one thing at the end, it's pretty much like we're just taking the panels and making them the movie.
I thought that weird extended sequence in the comic book was weird, where it just said music playing Hallelujah, and then they make love in the ship. Anyways, that was the other like place where he went off the page.
That
It
was
like,
Mars
oh,
very
lovemaking
good.
scene. That was very
Yeah.
bizarre.
But like it's not a bad movie, but I feel like it suffers because it tries so hard to just like be the comic book, but as a movie instead of like adapting it.
Well, some of
necessarily.
that's like Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like being a fan probably doesn't help or hurt necessarily.
Mhm.
But are you a good filmmaker? It probably like matters more than whether or not you care about the property.
What about, forget fandom, do you think it helps or hurts that he is consulting so much with Kojima, which Konami must love? But I love that, like, well, what are they going to do? Tell him not to talk to this dude? But he is really becoming buddies with Hideo Kojima. And so in theory, Kojima is going to have some input on the Metal Gear Solid movie, which is maybe everything he's always wanted.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Kojima can just go make a film and like he would enjoy that. I think what makes Metal Gear so good though, and it's so zany and weird, that I don't think that always will translate into a larger movie audience. That sort of like zany magical realism stuff that happens in that.
Well, let's
thing.
get specific. Just to fit that story into a movie, you got to cut some characters,
Sure.
right? You probably have to cut Donald Anderson, DARPA chief, therefore all of Decoy Octopus.
So to be clear, this is
Metal Gear Solid 1.
Metal Gear Solid 1 is. We're
Yes.
sure that okay.
I guess
probably
I'm not
cut-
100%.
I mean,
but
you'd probably cut most of the boss characters, right?
I think you
like you
would.
keep Sniper Wolf,
I think you have to keep Ocelot just in case you want to
Yeah.
move into the future. I think that's going to be important.
Liquid, Ocelot, and I think maybe Sniper. I think everyone else can be cut, and even Sniper Wolf. I'm only saying because
I would
Vulcan
s-
Raven, you'd cut.
I
Sniper
would-
Wolf, just because of the Meryl stuff. But, I mean,
Yeah.
Liquid could snipe Meryl.
yeah, that's true.
I think you cut Sniper.
Yeah, I think you cut Sniper.
All
I
right.
would actually keep Don
All right, I'm okay with
Anderson first before I would cut Sniper.
What about this conundrum, right? I don't know if you know this, but they are twin snakes after all. So do you cast the same person to play Liquid and Solid?
no. And in fact, his spoilers for Metal Gear Solid, the secret character that your trainer, what's his name?
Master Miller.
Mr. Miller.
Kaz Miller.
Yeah.
I think he's out of the movie too, because it would just be too weird to
It's
have
just
the
too
actor
weird,
play like.
Because they can be genetic like twins, but you modify it. He got Liquid got the recessive genes, right?
Yeah.
He got the genes to make him look
This-
different.
I mean, really, ultimately, this brings me to my long-term theory that I've talked about before: is that Metal Gear Solid should be adapted into a musical if it's going to be adapted into anything. I really feel this way. I feel like the bosses should have their moments, their songs to explain their background and why they're in the emotional state that they're in.
Interesting.
I'm JV's like got his eyes closed and he's freaking out, but I really think if anything is going to work for Metal Gear Solid, it's musical
For the stage?
I think it'd be more
either
interesting as
way.
a Broadway musical.
Plus,
Yeah.
if you
I
had
mean,
a-
it would be more
I
interesting.
mean, playing Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, where the I don't remember anyone's names, the bee guy, like he's literally dancing on top of a rock with
The
bees.
Pain.
The Pain,
Pain.
excuse me. He's
Mr. Payne.
Mr. Pain. Like that is a musical number. It's like, who's
Yeah.
his character? Here's everything he feels. Here's his musical theme to set him up.
Plus, if it's like Metal Gear Solid 1, you could get that sweet Rex's Lair music, the one that goes zoom.
Yeah.
And like that would be like a great chorus arrangement.
you can have a
Yeah.
big like musical montage for like sneaking through certain areas.
Yeah.
This will work.
But by the way,
that's why I don't think you adapt a single game. Like you maybe take some of the concepts and like do your own
Make a
thing
new
with
story.
it.
Yeah,
Because
like-
like those games are cool and fun in themselves. Like you need to do something different with a movie.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Reeves. I don't think like the wacky elements would translate, and it's not an issue usually that okay, well they're just going to do a different thing. But if it is a straight adaptation, like so much of Metal Gear is tied up into that, just like the way that David Hayter says "Hind D" and stuff like that, it's just ludicrous.
oh, there you go. David Hayter is solid. JV has a great point.
Well, that's the point.
By the way, I will put money if this movie happens. Tom Hiddleston as Liquid. He was in Kong
Okay.
Skull Island. He is
Yeah.
an awesome villain. It's basically just Loki.
He would be perfect.
He'd be so
He would be
good
so
as
good.
Liquid.
Can he do solid?
That's the. I don't think
Oh,
he
of course.
could.
He's a great impressionist. You guys haven't seen him doing impressions?
I don't think so.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston, like an awesome impressionist.
So wait, you're going back in your theory now? You want him to play Liquid and Solid?
I think you know what? I think if anyone could do it,
I think you get Chris Helmsworth to play it.
Chris. Hemsworth.
That's
Yeah,
very
who's
true.
Snake? Is,
Anyway-
is Dave? Last thing, is David Hayter in the movie at all? Cameo?
I don't think Kojima would sanction
I
that.
You don't think so? He should
yeah.
write it. He should write the movie, right?
He's wanted to for a long time. He's too busy on that Lost Planet
What
movie.
did what did he write? He wrote like
Watchmen.
the first draft of
Watchmen
Watchmen.
and X-Men 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And Wolves, his directorial debut, which I always feel bad for not watching.
Wolves.
He made a movie called Wolves.
Who's
What's
in
it
it?
about?
It's about werewolves like
Oh.
killing each other and
Oh.
effing and stuff.
That's weird. Like all
Effing it.
when you said that, I was
They
thinking of
just
like
swear.
Dog Soldiers or whatever that movie that that's basically werewolves fighting.
All
against
dogs go to heaven. Anyway, Robbie
Yes,
in Tampa Bay says,
exactly.
"Good morning, Game Informants. With a lukewarm reception to Mass Effect Andromeda, do you think that EA will revisit its stance on not issuing an HD collection of the original trilogy, whether to get some positive press or make back any money lost on MEA?"
I think it's a foregone conclusion. I think
Yeah.
they will eventually. It might not be this year, but I think it'll
Yeah.
happen.
It's a lot of work, but yeah, for sure that's going to
Yeah.
happen. Come on,
Yeah.
Robbie. That'll be fun though. Let's see. Jordan Egan says, "Hello, Ben Hansen and everybody. I'm interested in hearing you folks debate who you believe is the best video game composer working in the video game industry today." Jordan here says, "For his work on last year's Doom and Prey, I'd choose Mick Gordon. Hope to hear you share your thoughts." That working today isn't interesting because he'd be like, "Oh, Koji Kondo." I mean,
Yeah.
you can't argue with that. But maybe he made some menu sounds in ARMS. Like, who knows what his day-to-day business is like? By the way, how is the music in ARMS?
I liked it. Shay actually was kind of lukewarm on it. He didn't
Really?
like it. It kind of reminded me of Stephen Chow movies, like Kung Fu Hustle and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Oh, weird. Best composer working today.
Austin Wintory, it feels like that's
Yeah.
the go-to. Like, yeah, anytime I hear a soundtrack that he's done, I'm like, yeah, I'm really into this.
Yeah,
So I
that's true.
think-
So that's Journey. That's
Yeah.
Abzu.
I think I would go Martin O'Donnell, right? Like the Halo themes
The
just
Halo
really
theme's pretty iconic.
stick around.
Has he
And
done-
Golem's soundtrack is killer.
Oh, we don't know. We don't know.
I'm actually really excited because
Yeah.
I have no idea what Golem's going to sound
But
like.
I
That's a
think
PSVR game they're
in
working
terms
on.
of because I am kind of I'm one of those people who doesn't really like modern game soundtracks because they mostly set mood, if that makes sense. Like they're sort of they're just kind of I don't want to be dismissive, but it's just mostly like film soundtracks where they're mostly there to set a mood. They don't really inject like memorable.
You want hooks.
I like hooks, and I feel like Halo's soundtrack in particular kind of did both, where you did have hooks and like memorable songs that I would want to listen to on their own, but still did an awesome job at like setting a mood. And I'm just like a big fan of like percussion. I like a lot of like really percussive soundtracks, and that's what he does a lot. A lot of timpanis and drums and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, he's
so.
pretty good.
So that would be for me, I think, my favorite modern composer.
I think I'd go Mitsuda. Xenoblade, Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger, all that stuff. But I feel like even he's slowing down a little bit. I know there's some mobile game that he's working on now and stuff.
Still counts.
Yeah. Also, I don't think anyone's ever uttered this name out loud. Underrated composer. And you might think it's easy because it's so many licenses and stuff, but I think it's an underappreciated aspect of this entire studio's work is Telltale has had the same composer since like Back to the Future, this Jared Emerson Johnson. And I think that the soundtracks to Telltale's games are underappreciated.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to go with Smooth McGroove.
Love it. Tom Awesome from Roseville.
Any original music?
Tom Awesome from Roseville, Minnesota says, congratulations, you guys. I just designed each of yours as dream spaceship.
Uh-oh.
What are you going to name it, and what are your favorite features?
Wait, each of ours?
Basically, design your own spaceship. What is your ideal spaceship? If you had your own Millennium Falcon, would it be the Millennium Falcon?
The X-wing without like the fart noises when it fires its lasers. That's
Some sort of weird
the
modifier?
only thing.
Oh.
I'll take an A-wing, thank you. I'll
that-
take the fart noises.
It has been a while since a spaceship has wowed me, but the U-wing in Rogue One, I am so into with like the weird folding wings. I think
Okay.
that thing looks awesome. And then I went out and looked at the Legos and was like, for $150 you can build
There
it.
you go. I do like the X-Wing. I thought that was the coolest ship when I was a kid. I think.
Where do you say? Shut up. Where do you stand on the like Episode 3 X-wing that has like 14 wings off to the sides
14.
or 3?
That's a pretty big gap
It's
there.
not as cool.
Okay.
It's like when you try to do the like side things on the lightsaber. What are those called? The hilts.
Are you talking about that toy you have?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not good.
All right.
But what I was gonna say is like the X-wing's cool, but I feel like I'd want a ship that could carry multiple people. Kind of like a
No.
space yacht.
We could put your wife in the R2D2 slot. I think anybody can fit into that.
But where am
Just
I
a
going to put my
frozen corpse
cat?
by the time you land. Can you take care of that, honey?
It's just dead. Awful. What's wrong with you?
I just want a
Hanson?
ship all to myself. I don't want anyone else on it.
See,
You want the spike ship from
I
Cowboy
want,
Bebop.
yeah. No, wait. Which one? We're talking
red
about the
one.
one. Yeah, the red one. Yeah.
What is that? It's named after a fish of some kind, right? Swordfish, right?
Gold.
No, am I making that up?
I think it might be swordfish. Yeah.
Okay. I want the Heart of Gold from Hitchhikers. I want a nice roomy like RV. I want basically a house that floats through space.
Well, you know what I want? I
Interesting.
want a Borg cube.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
It's basically
They
I'm
look
trying to
great.
Well, the Borg cube seems really dirty though. Like they don't,
No.
that's like they don't care about cleaning
You don't
up.
think
They're
they
like a bunch of
clean?
robots. Yeah. Where like I want like the
Just get a
latest.
bunch of Roombas.
Like I want the Enterprise. I want the newest stuff. You know.
I
I want a lot
want-
of room. I want to be able to run a mile around.
What's
inside
wrong
my
with
ship.
the inside of the Borg cube being dirty? It just looks like a rave's happening
I'm just
all
saying
the time.
I'm just saying
inside
they
there.
probably
It's
don't
fine.
have Borg like the Borg system or whatever you want to call it. Like they don't have two Borg set aside to be janitors for that ship. They all have one goal. And
Yeah, but
cleaning
see,
is
like
just a
you
waste
can
of time.
design your ship though. Like you can make those specifications.
I guess
this
that's
is our
true.
fantasy. At the
Okay,
moment.
so Borg cube, but with like a team of janitors.
super
Okay.
clean cube.
Yeah.
I don't think that ship. I
Hire a
think
couple Wallies to run around in the Borg
That
cube.
ship has like holes in it, right? Like that you
That's
can't.
why it's so cool. It's
like
how
humans
does
can't
this
walk
work?
around in that ship.
I feel
right?
like
Oh,
Kyle
yeah,
just
they can.
doesn't want interstellar or tetanus, and I feel like that's fair. Like
Oh, how about the ship from Interstellar? 555.
The one he takes off in the end, or
Yeah,
the one
that's
they
shaped
travel
like
there?
a guitar.
I don't remember.
He has
the
his own
shape
room.
of
He's
that
like,
thing.
he's a janitor in that. You
I-
guys,
I
you
have-
guys all know this Daft Punk animated film that I watch with my daughter all the time, right?
Shut up.
Oh god.
You need a ship that's like cozy, but enough room to lie down. It's like I
Yeah.
always freak myself out whenever I go to into a bathroom, like a public bathroom or just like a little offshoot in a restaurant, and there's not enough space in that bathroom for me to like fully stretch out. Because I
Yeah.
always go through this worst case scenario of like, what if I had to live in here? Could I sleep in this bathroom? And so I feel like I'd be the same way with the spaceship, where I need like a Normandy-sized ship,
Yeah.
where not too
Yeah.
big, but I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
run around. I can not get bored of one room.
Why not big though?
Why
why
not
not-
go as big as possible?
So like we joked about Wally, but why not the spaceship from Wally?
The
It's
Axiom?
like basically a cruise ship. Like you have
It's
a
that's
too much.
terrible.
You have like a bunch
It'd
of
be
things you
what?
can just
It'd
cart
be
around
filled
in.
with
You can
idiots.
go golfing.
Cruise ships are bad.
I guess.
Yeah, I think it would be maintenance. I think there'd be too many other people to work with. Like the thrill of having your own spaceship is like going fast, going maneuverable, like making it maneuverable, like
Right.
skimming the ocean on planets, then going back into
But
space.
if you're on a cruise ship, you don't have to do the maintenance. If you have your own little
just
X-wing,
get some
you gotta
robots.
do all
There's
those
no
repairs.
pilot
Don't trust the
thrill.
robots; they
Or
murder you in
You
the
gotta
end.
hire a guy, and how can you trust him?
I'm just saying, no
Like your
hotshot
oil's
pilot
leaking.
wants to drive a 747. You know.
All right.
Anyways, Brian from Minnesota, hello. He said, "Who exactly wrote the Game Informer page error page? I was trying to load the site and happened to have a problem. I saw the error page, reminded me of its bizarre early 2010s humor, referencing code monkeys, epic fails, guy being thrown off ledge. You remember 2010 when we all threw people off ledges?
Mhm.
Clearly, it was written around 2009-ish, considering Black Ops is the image on there. That was former media editor Nick Ahrens who wrote
really?
that Game Informer error page. But you'll never see that page. Don't worry, Game Informer. Everything's
always
great.
Surprised
So-
you found it. Anyway,
I don't remember- I don't
hacked
even-
our site.
Yeah, I don't even remember what it looks like. No. Nate S says, I want to thank new video hire Leo Vader for mentioning my comment on your recent live stream of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. In the comment, I said, Cork's giddy giggle, which Leo read as giggy giggle, which in turn made me giggle giddily. It really made my day. Thank you. All right, thanks for watching that stream. Good job, Leo. You really butchered it well.
That might be question of the week right there.
And then Christian, who describes himself as a slightly creaky gamer, says, when I was a kid, there was an Atari 2600 cart. He calls it a cart. Called Tunnel Runner. Do you guys know Tunnel Runner?
No.
It
Sounds
is
lewd.
interesting. So this is just a history lesson from this Christian guy, but why the hell not? He says, the player was dropped into a maze and I had to locate a key and find an exit while avoiding Pac-Man-like creatures that patrolled the maze. It sounds simple, and I guess it is, but its gameplay and presentation were ahead of their time. It came out like 1982, 1983. For example, the game was played in first person with a simulated 3D environment. Every maze was randomly generated and navigated with the help of an overmap. The cart had extra RAM built into it. The enemies were unkillable, so the player's only choice was to run away. The only weapon you had was speed. Enemy presence was indicated by a sound that grew louder or softer based on proximity. At higher levels, the game not only got steadily faster, the player would encounter blank maps, hidden exits, and enemies that could glitch through walls. Besides its prescient gameplay and presentation, Tunnel Runner was the first game that made me feel a strong emotion. It was fear, as the sound of an approaching enemy crescendoed, and all I could do was run. Over time, I found myself referencing it, whether it was in relation to Wolfenstein 3D, Alien Isolation, Clock Tower, anything procedurally generated, and so on. The current discussion around Friday the 13th has again brought me back to memories of Tunnel Runner and his relentless foes. This game sounds cool. I looked it up, and the first instinct is, oh god, that looks ugly. But it is pretty impressive for a game so old, because it does have this cool overhead map, and then you're dropped into it, and you just have to survive.
What year did you say it was again?
1982 or 1983. It's worth checking out. Maybe it'd be a fun, crazy replay or extra life
Sounds
segment
kinda
if we all
cool,
just
yeah.
played Tunnel Runner.
I like that idea.
We've never really hooked up our Atari, have we?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't even know if it works.
I think we played an Atari Classics like PS2 game.
Yeah,
Or
that's the
video
closest
once.
we've got. That'd be
Yeah.
fun just to go as far back as possible. But that's it. What do you guys like for
Wait,
question
what
of
was
the
the
week?
question?
Oh, he just says, have you ever heard of Tunnel Runner?
That was
No.
the all right.
That was the question.
Either the one we started with about E3 expectations, or the spaceship one.
I like
I
the
go either
spaceship
way.
one.
Spaceship. I like Spaceship.
I like Metal Gear.
Oh, that was good too.
Yeah,
I like
spaceship or E3 for
All
me.
right. Well, what if I change my vote to Metal Gear and I complicate things?
Yeah, I like
Well,
it.
that's 50-50.
Yeah.
So E3, just for clarification here, JV, there was your least anticipated game for E3, and also who are you looking forward to running into?
Oh, least anticipated.
Least anticipated
Yeah.
game.
I felt like that was a good conversation.
Yeah. E3 is a time to be positive. It's time to be excited. No room for pessimism, JV.
Yeah.
So Spaceship or Metal Gear? Is that where we're
Spaceship.
going?
Flip coin.
Metal Gear.
Reeves, can you be nudged in either direction?
No, I don't like the Metal Gear one that much.
All right. Well, let's go Spaceship then.
All right.
All right. Congratulations,
did
Tom
like that,
Awesome from Roseville, Minnesota. We'll ship you out something.
What if the
really
people
nice.
who like don't get it and they're like on the bubble like that, if they're like, oh come on, and then now they just hate me.
Yes, yes.
Because I didn't go with Metal Gear.
Why do you think you're getting all that hate mail, dude?
I thought that was my mother.
Anyways, for now, we're going to talk all about Portal 1, everybody. So stay tuned for a fun Game Club conversation where we dive deep into everything we could possibly say about the wondrous, magical time that is Portal 1. And welcome to Game Informer's first and only Game Club episode for Portal 1, 2007's classic. I'm still here, Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard. Portal fan number one. If you let me down in any way with your Portal knowledge, I'm very much going to be
I'm
disappointed.
wearing a Portal shirt.
Well, you're
for
off
the
to a good
occasion.
start. We have Ben
Good
Reeves,
job. Hello.
and then we have video editor Leo Vader.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. It's tough because I wanted to include you on something. It's nice to get you on the podcast early. I know you're on it a while ago with the intern batch, but you're like, yeah, I'll play Portal. And it really crystallized an entire thought where it's like, yeah, you'll play it, and I'm sure you'll like it, but are you a Portal guy? And then I was just trying to figure out, that's just everybody. Everybody's a Portal person. This game is for the entire world.
That's right.
But you called yourself a Portal expert.
Yeah. When
Okay.
I applied for the position, yeah.
Perfect.
That's what he thought he was getting hired for.
So this game has been talked about to death. It's like looking back at Michelangelo's David and trying to find something new to say about such a masterpiece. But I hadn't played it since 2010, which I don't even remember playing it back then. But when was the last time you guys played through Portal 1?
Probably the year after it came out. I know I played it a lot when it first came out, and I played it again like the next year. I think I played it right before, maybe before the second one came out even.
Yeah.
But yeah, since the second one's been out, I don't think I've gone back to it.
Same.
The literal hours leading up to Portal 2's release, because it was like that. I was that excited for it. I was counting down the minutes to the game.
Oh,
I watched
wow.
my wife play through Portal 1 because she had never played Portal 1.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
that was my last sort of like giving it my full attention experience with it.
Yeah.
I was watching somebody else play.
We had a surprising amount of people send in emails. I appreciate everybody who sent in a very thoughtful email. I'm sorry if we won't get to all of them. We're going to try to get to a lot of them here. I think only one, maybe two from people who have never played Portal 1. But the weird part, I think both of them had played Portal 2.
Oh,
And Portal
interesting.
1 is just this weird anomaly of like, who wants to go back to the original? Who wants to watch Mad Max when you have, Warriors Road or whatever it's Road Warrior?
Fury Road?
No, the second one.
All right.
No, the good one, dude. Reeves, I went back and looked at Game Informer's review for the Orange Box, and it
Yeah.
said it was written by Ben.
Yeah.
Is that you?
Ben Hansen. Oh, yeah, that's me.
Holy.
We just had first names on there, huh?
Yeah, it's
I
very
forgot about
strange.
that, yeah.
What was your memory of reviewing Orange Box?
Well, first of all, that was cool because we went out to the studio for that. So we went out to that was like my first year, I want to say, at GI, and we bundled it together with a trip for Bungie's because we were like reviewing Halo 3.
Oh,
So for like a
wow.
week, I went out to Seattle and I played through Halo 3, and then we moved over to Valve and we played through the Orange Box. And we're like, this job's not half bad.
And now every morning you wake up and look at the mirror and say, what have I become?
Yeah.
I spent a week in Bellevue playing some of the greatest games of all time.
What happened to me?
Do you remember early impressions? Like, your review is very glowing. Not only do you call Orange Box the best value of all time, but you're like, oh, this Portal game is a shining example. Should be the first one you play out of the bunch.
Yeah, so I remember before it came out too, is like I think everybody was like interested in Portal, and we were like, this game looks pretty cool. Like people were enthusiastic about it, but I don't think anybody knew that Portal was going to be what it was. Even Valve didn't know. Like we went there and they were like talking about. They thought that Team Fortress 2 was like the best thing in the Orange Box and like the biggest value. And it's a good game. Like I'm not going to say, but I don't think they understood what Portal was. They were like, yeah, and Portal's in there. We think it's pretty cool. We think people are going to like it. Like, and I think as a cultural phenomenon, I think Portal's the one that kind of like outshined all the rest of the stuff in that package.
I mean, you say that. That's interesting. But the idea that Team Fortress 2 is still going strong. Leo, you seem like a Team Fortress 2 kind of guy. All right. Never mind. I take that back.
That was on his resume. Okay, things are different
But-
now.
Team Fortress 2, I'm not trying to like knock it at all.
No,
I just
but you think of like that player base. That's an interesting idea. Is we all love Portal so much, but do you think Team Fortress 2 has maybe had more of an impact?
Well, no. Portal. I think Portal went across the sort of like into the mainstream. I think people know what Portal is who don't know what Team Fortress is. You know, like that Portal appeals to like the hardcore gamer and the casual gamer. You know, like the person who is just like, because the concept comes through really quickly of like, oh, you can kind of displace your body in different parts of a room, and that's really cool. And it's also like, you know, there's not really any villains that you're fighting. Well, I mean,
Really?
you're not shooting people.
Right.
You know, you're not. There's not enemies that you're trying to take out. So I think even though Team Fortress 2 probably had the longer like legs and is hugely important to Valve, like undeniably, I think Portal. I mean, Portal's the one that's getting adapted into a movie, right? So
Not Team
there's my
Fortress.
point.
I think there's been plenty of Team Fortress 2 shorts, but yeah, I guess it's a good point. It's also just a weird example of being bundled with the Orange Box. It's Valve reaching out to console gamers. You know, they've dabbled with ports of, you know, both Half-Life games, where this was like, hey, full court press, console gamers, enjoy what Valve offers. And Portal was one of, you know, it was basically the cherry on top, and it just reached such a crazy mass audience. I remember playing through it for the first time with my friend Ronnie, and we just sat down in one sitting. And it was the best experience, but my memory of it was very much just, this is a really cool little thing. I'm glad the game industry can make something so cool. All right, moving on. And now just playing through it again and thinking about this entire game club, it's just interesting to reflect on the power of just a cool little thing. Just a cool little tight package can have such a gigantic impact, and we should appreciate current cool little things more. You know what I mean? Instead of just being like, oh, I guess there's like a little side mode in this game. All right, moving on. It's like this at the time was just another one of those cool little things, and now it's blossomed into t-shirts that Kyle can wear, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Do you guys just want to get the cake is a lie stuff out of the way, out of the gate? and
What
then we
is
don't.
that?
Would you say it all together or something?
Actually, it was the headline for your review of Portal
Which,
1.
in my defense, like it wasn't
Yeah.
even a meme at that point.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
So you made it a meme.
That's right. It was
your
because
fault.
of my headline.
Did you guys, were you familiar with like the meme culture when you played Portal, so to speak? Like the reason I ask is because like the song at the end,
Yeah.
that was a total surprise to me. I had not heard
Right.
anything about that,
Yeah.
and like I was like in retrospect, like the following weeks, I was so happy that I was able to go into the game and see that song without seeing it like online first or something like that. You know?
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. Somebody wrote in saying that they played this game without the internet with a buddy, and they were so enthralled by that song, like, we need to play it again. And so they played through it again and again and again, and then he eventually grew to speedrun the game.
Just so we could listen to the song?
Well, like, he just, because
Don't
of that...
tell them there's a chapter select after you beat the game.
Exactly. Yeah, no, because of that week where they kept replaying it over and over again,
Yeah.
then he grew to like, now I'm actually really good at this game and I can get into the speedrunning community. And it was all just to try and get to that song. But yeah,
Oh, that's
great.
funny.
Chapter select is right there.
It's a charming story, but yeah.
Yeah. So Brent Johnson, just to get the song out of the way, says, what I would like to know is how everybody's relationship with the cake is a lie joke went. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was a great joke too when I first heard it. But after days to weeks to months of hearing the exact same catchphrase gag, it's become one of the least funny jokes of all time. Maybe I'm just being a grouch, but man, by the end of 2007, was I sick of hearing about cake and whether or not it was truly coming to me. Did anyone else feel this way, or am I just a bit too sensitive to the mimetic jokes?
Well, what was the joke?
The joke is...
I mean,
Isn't it just saying a line
It's-
from the game?
yes,
and
that's
it's
the
written on
punchline.
the wall.
I
and
think it's
yeah.
the which
Yeah, it's
a
a joke because it was written on the wall. Leo. Come on, comedy boy.
Well, I mean, I never got too annoyed with it because like it was this sort of like you could like if you met someone who's like, yeah, the cake is a lie. It's like, yes, we both experienced Portal and we understand that cake is a lie. You know, so I kind of appreciate it as like a community builder. But now it has hit this point of like, all right, shut up.
Jose Pizarro has the one line where he says, I see Portal 1 now kind of like how I see Borat.
Oh,
Which is a sad assessment of all of
Wow,
Portal 1.
that
But
seems
that's
like a
just with the
brutal
jokes in of itself.
backhanded
Yeah.
compliment.
But just for overall thoughts to kick things off, some people had some good high-level takes before we get into the specifics of Portal 1 here. Jacob from Durham, North Carolina says, the Portal gun itself is, in my opinion, up there with the all-time greatest game mechanics. It is absolutely unique moving around the world using portals, and it's completely different than any other traversal method I can think of. At the same time, though, the tagline, now you're thinking with portals, totally holds true. Although it's been several years since I last played the game, I felt immediately comfortable jumping around the testing facility again for the game club. It's like Valve created a new bicycle. Tricky to learn initially, but with a little practice, it feels like a natural extension of the player's body. I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen a crop of games that simply lift the mechanic wholesale from the game, similar to the new genre of Dark Souls-like games. The portal gun isn't just a gimmick to solve a few puzzles with, it's a singularly fantastic concept that's only possible in the medium of gaming. High praise for the concept of the portal gun. Adam H. Says, Portal is one of those games that just seems to redefine gaming. I never saw so many mind-bending puzzles that were also so fun in a game before. The game also showed me that there could be a short puzzle-oriented game with a fascinating background story. At first, it seems to just be a puzzle game until the game begins to draw back the curtain and the players begin to see what is going on behind the sterile white panels to the real dirt. Jordan, I think... This is Jordan Holmdahl, just in case you're curious. I think Portal's brilliance comes down to the relatively simple tools being used to solve complex, mind-bending puzzles and how well the game teaches players how to think with portals. New gameplay mechanics are deliberately presented to give you examples of how they can be exploited by the portal gun without being overwhelming, and the final few test chambers are insane. Tom from Hungary has a simple statement. Being able to render and having a working portal in a video game was a huge thing back then, and I still think it is to this day. It is something that we've almost all taken for granted because we lived with Portal for 10 years now. It's like, yeah, of course, Portal technology. But do you guys remember your minds being shattered when you first saw that stuff?
Oh yeah, totally. Even when I first saw the demo for it, which was before the game came out, and we're like, Valve's done it again. Like, this is insane. Like, how do they have all these cool ideas? Because everybody was comparing it to the gravity gun from Half-Life, which is another like really cool like gun that's not really a gun but does really cool things. Yeah, and he did mention, was it Darksiders in that note, right?
He mentioned Dark Souls.
Oh, did he? Okay.
But Darksiders has a portal gun,
Darksiders
right?
did have a portal gun, which is like interesting because that kind of around the same time. And
Well, later, but yeah.
It was like a year or two.
it was in
Oh, no, I'm
development before Portal came. Anyway, I remember talking to him about it. And like, we had that idea before we saw Portal.
Oh, is that
That's it.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So
But if you consider, like, Nabacular drop, like the original tech demo like experience for Portal. But anyways,
I don't know.
I'm just saying Vigil's pushing it a little
Believe
bit.
What
but
you
anyways,
will,
all
I
right.
guess. But yeah, I mean, it was just mind blowing. It's such a cool idea, and you're like, this is gonna blow my mind when it comes out. I don't know if I'm gonna understand how portals work.
It was just so much fun to mess with it and just to have those rounds of experimentation of like, okay, if I put one here and then this corner of the room, how's that going to look? Like the first time you create the infinite loop from the ceiling to the floor and just goes faster and faster and faster. So satisfying. And it is so smart. I think the huge takeaway from this game is just how focused and clear it is. And from the get-go, it tells you everything you need by shooting that first portal and then seeing yourself immediately and just immediately have perspective on where you can go, what this thing's doing, even what you look like as a character, to the small details of, of course she has weirdo things on her feet because there's no fall damage.
Yeah.
It's interesting to listen to the commentary on Portal 1 because they go into that in depth where they talk about like how purposeful it was to make sure you see yourself and like that the putting those things on her feet was a product of people asking that question when they were playtesting the game. It's like, how come she doesn't have to take fall damage? And so, yeah, like every part of that game, which is like my favorite type of game, is just sanded down to like exactly, you see exactly what you're supposed to see and figure out exactly what you're supposed to figure out just by their design.
If you haven't done it with the commentary, I recommend watching
Yeah.
the commentary while playing it because it's super interesting just to like hear all the stuff of like how they play tested the crap out of that game, where it's like there's a test chamber where you have to put a box on this button, and they found out that people were shooting portals through the doorway to get through and kind of cheat, and like they're like, oh, that's a really cool like way to solve it, but we're trying to teach you how this like button and box works, and so that doesn't work. So they had to put like a glass window there. So just like hearing that stuff about how they had to like solve problems that were created by those game mechanics was super interesting.
Yeah, I listened to a little bit of developer commentary, and actually that was one that I listened to as well. It's a little drier. It's a little like scripted than I would like, but I think there are a lot of interesting nuggets. And you played through the entire thing with it, right, Kyle?
Yeah, Reeves did too.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Which then, like, just to mention, like, if you're listening to this and maybe you haven't played Portal yet and you're going to go back to it, like, play with the commentary because it doesn't diminish you still play the full game on its own. It doesn't, like, cut out Portal, like, puzzles or anything like that.
And you can wait until Gladys is done talking and then hit the commentary button. It's kind of like play the commentary at your own pace kind of a thing, which is really nice.
It is funny because you're right. It's very sterile, but then it's who plays GLaDOS? It's McLean. Is it Ellen or Shirley?
Ellen
McLean.
I want to say.
Hers are the most interesting to listen to because she's an actor. So like even though she had scripted stuff, she reads it very well, and like she doesn't have a lot to say about the game design, obviously, because she wasn't involved in that part. But even just hearing her say like, "I don't play video games, but the first time I saw trailers for Portal, I really wanted to play this game," and it's really fun to hear her talk about the game. And they also have clips of her like without her voice modified and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, so getting to the beginning of the game, Alec writes in and says, while the beginning of the game does a great job teaching new players to think with portals, it is incredibly slow for a returning player. Spending the first half an hour or so without the portal gun and then with access to only one portal is pretty rough coming back to the game, but are what makes it so brilliant to a new player. Do you guys experience that? Were you frustrated about the slow build before you eventually get the two portals, which is what, like the 10th test chamber maybe?
Yeah.
It's definitely up there.
It really doesn't hit you that first time through because they are trying to teach you, like, here's how buttons work, here's how portals work. Like, at one point in the commentary, they say, like, yeah, some players thought orange portals were only exit portals, and, like, we had to, like,
interesting.
create a whole test chamber just to show them that, like, no, you can go in and out whichever one you want. Like, so some of that's, like, extra test chambers I think they created during the testing phase that they're like, oh, players still don't understand this mechanic. Let's break it down even more simply. Like, which is why I think playing through a second time with the commentary actually added some value there.
Because I agree with the commenter. Like, it is slow at the beginning, especially those couple puzzles where you have to wait for portals to appear.
100%.
Yeah.
That is my, I mean, it's tough to come up with criticisms of Portal, but playing through it again, the waiting's the hardest part, as I think Socrates once sang. But it is tough. And even once you have both portal guns, like any puzzles that require something to slowly rotate around and shoot the electron beam, or the beginning waiting for those puzzles to come, or like waiting on a platform to go before you can go again. Maybe I'm just not using quick save and quick load efficiently enough. But that was one of the few drawbacks that I don't remember of Portal 1. It's like there's a lot of just kind of slowly waiting for this thing to rotate and fire in the right direction so I can do my part.
Maybe this is a question we'll get into later, but one of the reasons that I think Portal 2 is a much is a better game than Portal 1 is because it gets rid of those puzzles with the electron balls that you have to wait for to like send puzzles. Like those puzzles are the weakest in the game to me, and Portal 2 excised them entirely.
Excise vilify. Why do you think they're so weak?
Because you have to wait a lot, and it's and like when you have to catch them, there's not really a good indicator of where to create an opening portal. Like they have an orange light that comes out, but it doesn't always create a mark on the ceiling or whatever. So like
there's a mark, but it's super subtle.
Yeah, like I would have times where I would like, all right, let me set up these portals. All right, now I gotta wait. Oh, I was off by a foot. Okay,
What
I gotta move
sucks
the
too is,
portal over
like,
a little bit.
That those balls will expire, which is important in case they get locked somewhere that you can't get to. But what'll happen is like you've pretty much solved it, and the ball's like about to fly into its socket, and then it expires and like pops, and you're like, oh, I got to do that all over again.
Yeah.
Or it kills you.
Or it kills you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another big takeaway is I do not remember dying so much. And it takes a while, but like the last third of the test chambers, I was dying a lot, falling into a lot of the dumb green goop.
Yeah.
And then even like the respawn took longer than I remembered before you click and get out of there and it loads back in. But with the balls too, like I liked how haywire they can get and just bounce around the room. But like the 19th test chamber where they're shooting down from the ceiling, I don't know how I solved it. And maybe that's part of the charm of Portal is like I had portals set up, I was looking somewhere else, being frustrated, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I guess the electron eventually pinballed its way over to the right spot and I got it. But there was no logic behind it whatsoever. I guess it was just secretly good
I think
math.
you're just dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very
I think
stupid.
you're very dumb. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. But on the Portal 2 front, someone wrote in about that exact thing. Eric from Michigan says, I'm a big fan of the show. Thank you. I just finished Portal, clocking in at a little over an hour. Oh, speedrunner here.
Wow.
This question might
Really
be
wanted to hear that
skewed.
song.
This question might be skewed having played Portal 2, but does it bother anyone that there wasn't a zoom feature or a sprint in Portal 1? Or do you think it requires more precision because of the absence of these features? Thanks for reading my question and give me a reason to go back to one of my favorite games.
The sprint feature did bug me, actually. In fact, I like clicked down on the left thumbstick a couple times, and that's crouch. And so I was constantly like crouching in the middle of something. I'm like, oh, no run. That's right.
The lack of a sprint feels almost intentional because they're like trying to get you to remember that you should be using portals to travel to places.
Right,
So every
yeah,
time
for
I was
sure.
going super slowly and needing to get somewhere, I just said, oh, I should make a portal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and using portals just for the simple transportation, I think, is more fun, maybe even than Valve realizes. Like, especially towards the end, when there's no puzzle involved, it is so satisfying. We're just like, I gotta get from over here to over there, and it's maybe like 3 times in the game or so where it's actually like, there's no puzzle here, but you can just use it if you want to go faster, and even that is really fun.
Would you put a portal on the wall and then another on the wall and walk through?
Of course.
Or because what I like to do is put a portal on the wall wherever I'm going and then shoot a portal directly at my feet and fall through.
Yeah.
I really, it's dumb, but I really got to throw out of that.
That's not dumb, Reese.
No, like the ceiling floor portals, just to get specific, but I guess that's what the game club's about. I find those are always really satisfying. Like the test chamber, God, is it 8, 13? Yes, 13, where you're just trying to get cubes to fall on buttons, and you're doing it by shooting the ceiling and just trying to like aim up where it's going to fall onto the button. I love any sort of aiming like that. Like I think taking out the turrets can get a little bit repetitive.
Sure.
Yeah.
But even then, it's still fun to figure out, like, all right, if I drop it from this angle here, and then on the floor to ceiling point, I really love in the end when it goes off the rails, there's a point where it's just a really low slab. Do you know what I'm talking about? And to
yes.
get on
Yeah.
top of it, you have to shoot one straight up that, at least I assume everybody did
Yes,
this.
that's how you do it.
In the same way, yeah, where it's just like, it's antithetical, you wouldn't think it'd be fun, but there's something fun about putting 2 portals basically on either side of a pizza and then just using it to stand and jump through the hole.
Yeah.
Do you guys have favorite ways to use portals?
I loved the fling mechanic where
Yeah.
you know you're coming out the side of a wall, but you're falling down like 3 stories, then you shoot at the floor and then fling out the side. Like I love the doing that twice in a row and get really far.
Yes.
Like that just is endlessly. It never tires of like how fun that is.
And
It's
it's still,
weird.
they use it a lot more than I remembered in this game. It seems like whenever you're stumped, the solution is just fling yourself further, you idiot.
Yeah. I actually, when I first started Game Informer, I did like a top 10 puzzles list
Oh,
for the
interesting.
magazine. And that was, I had that one like super high. Like the sort of, the figuring out the double fling is like one of my favorite puzzles just ever, period. And I remember it actually being, probably not with you, Reeves, because I know we're both big Portal fans, but like a bit of an argument in the office where some people were like dismissing that as not being that crazy a puzzle. And I was just like, you guys are crazy. That is the coolest thing. Like to solve a puzzle by flinging your body, by taking your downward momentum and translating it to horizontal momentum to
horizontally.
solve a puzzle
Yeah.
is just
It's
fantastic.
based, I think it's the 10th test chamber is the first time they really start.
So good.
It's
layering
weirdly
that in.
thrilling. I know you're not physically moving, but there is like a sense of like almost like a roller coaster like gut check I get when I do it.
There's a great wind sound that plays when you're going.
Yeah.
I guess that is a little detail that really makes it come through. And I remember this being in Portal 2. I forget if they reused the line, but I still love when Gladys is teaching you that concept with the 10th test chamber. And she's like, in layman's terms, speedy thing goes in, speedy thing comes out.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant. And someone's like, oh, okay, I got it. Yeah. What a piece of cake. Yeah. And then I think she even says like we at some point after you finish one
It's
of
just
them.
like weird modulated.
Yeah. And also, just like beyond having the thrilling fling within the test chambers themselves, once you break out in that last third or so, the first time you use the fling in the wild, that's also a new layer of excitement for me. Like, oh, I don't think I should be doing this here, but I think I can do it.
Yeah.
God,
You can do
that
it wherever
moment.
you want.
Like, I don't know if we want to talk about that moment specifically, but like the way they sort of pitched the game early on, like with those little animations.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is a cool puzzle game. It'll be like a series of rooms that I need to get out of, and it'll just be puzzles. And then like the moment where you realize it's like, oh wait, there's a narrative happening here, and I'm going to be able to go outside and figure out what the hell is happening.
Yeah.
Like I did not expect that game to be that at all. So when I finally got to go like behind the stuff and like try to figure out what was happening and where I was, like I loved it, man. I really loved it.
It's by playing through this game again, it's like I'm still trying to figure out the core question, and maybe it's self-explanatory and you guys are going to laugh at this, but is Aperture stupid or a smart evil organization? How stupid is Aperture as an organization? Because there are so many situations, like the first time you got to get behind the wall and it's just like cubes stacked up and kind of lodging that wall. Like they have cameras everywhere. You certainly think that they'd be on top of it. And even like when you're marching towards the fiery inferno, it's very clear that there's a wall you can use there.
Yeah.
Are they really that stupid within
like
that world?
It is like stupid evil. Is
Yeah.
what they almost are.
I
Or
think-
rather, Gladys is evil at least.
I
And
think they're more obsessed with overcoming Black Mesa that they just like, we need to be better than Black Mesa, whatever that means. Even if it puts ourselves in dangers and we make bad mistakes, we just need to be better than
Right.
Black Mesa.
Yeah, and some of it's like colored from like what we know from Portal 2 and like Cave Johnson. Like
100%.
like, oh, okay, they weren't truly evil. They were sort of just narcissistic and like presumptuous. And, you know, and then like obviously things got corrupted. And Gladys, you could probably say is evil.
Well,
But that's sort of an accident, right?
is there a world, you think there's fan theories out there that even towards the end of the game you're still within the test chamber, which I think is kind of like the premise of like a fan film even, but just that idea, like there's still like those gates that'll nullify all the portals around you. It still feels somewhat well structured. Believe it or not, it's designed as much as it's trying to make it seem as if it isn't.
Well, Leo, I know you're surprised by this.
Right. And then especially with the patched ending where they drag you back in, it's like ultimately it's all part of the game
Yeah.
if you want to look at it that way.
I like their quiet narrative that they've constructed, and I enjoyed getting more of it in Portal 2 and, you know, reading the dumb comics and stuff. Like, it's just like you're right, it's stupid, it's nonsensical, it's like a cartoon in a lot of senses,
Yeah.
but like it's kind of fun how they tied it into the Half-Life universe as well, which is like completely the other side of the spectrum in terms of like theme and narrative.
Yeah. Tom F. from Grand Rapids talks about how important having the twist in Portal 1, which I guess is just the idea that you try to break out of the test chamber facility. He didn't know it ahead of time, and he's wondering, like, if the game came out today, if he just watched that on YouTube and it would be spoiled ahead of time. But how important do you think that is to go in blind to the idea that this world's going to crumble down?
Like, does it improve the game?
How much does it improve the game?
Wait, which twist are you talking about? The end?
Or just the fact that you get out of
Right.
the sort of testing
Okay.
system.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. The
I
part
mean-
where you're going down into the fire.
I was really on board with the mechanics as it was. Like, just that it functions as just a standard puzzle game. So, it adds a lot, but I think Portal would still be a great game even without the narrative.
And you don't need that narrative to sell it, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like, if it was all test chambers, still would have been an awesome game.
I
Wait,
think
so
so.
like not even Gladys, if it was just raw vanilla,
Well,
still
I mean,
good.
if Gladys was there, but say you never met her at the end.
Say she was super dry and not funny.
If the game literally ended with you going into the fire at the end and then the roll credits, I still think it would be a great game.
Great game.
Yes, absolutely.
But like,
There's still
I
a ton of great
think-
moments, like with the companion cube and everything. Like, there's still
well,
so
but
much.
that's part of the comedy
Yeah,
humor writing.
but that is before the twist, is what I'm saying. Like, it's still full of great moments that happened. Before
You think it
the
would have the
twist.
same legacy that it does today?
Well, I'm confused about it. Seems like there's two
It's a weird question,
propositions. Like, one is like if it didn't have any of the comedy in it. Is that what you were saying? Any of the writing?
Oh, we just said the twist, right?
Just the twist.
Yes. If
Okay.
you don't try to then break out of the facility, how important would that be?
Well,
It'd be a much darker ending. I think it'd still be really. Yeah, I think there'd still be a good game because I don't know if there's that much stuff that happens after that is necessary for what made that game great.
I just feel like it's important, and a huge part of it is just having that tone of, should I be doing this? Like, you feel like you're learning the ropes, and then it's like, all right, we're going to test you out in the wild. Let's see what you can do. And I think it's weird to call it danger, but it's a certain thrill of like, oh, can I get away with this now that mommy isn't looking?
Yeah.
We all know what that's like, right? I think that is a huge part of the charm of Portal. I don't think it would have the legacy. But as far as like,
it would be different. Yeah.
There's a part when you first escape and you first get out and past the fire, and Gladys is like, "Wait, come back," and something like, "Please assume the party associate submission position" or something like that, which I really liked.
I also like that line around the time where she's like, "Well, we already started eating the cake. We were gonna wait for you, but we decided to go ahead and start cutting the
Yeah.
cake." So,
Yeah.
which I
But
really
to
like.
kind of go back is like that moment where you're like, "Oh, I'm kind of like I'm free of my shackles in a sense. Like I'm getting away with something," as you put it. Like that does add a new dimension. It's like you're rebelling against Gladys, even though technically this was all set up. I mean, there was no other option in the game.
right. Tony Dungan from Eden Prairie says, personally, in my 2 previous playthroughs of Portal, I didn't enjoy the back section of Portal at all because I feel like you're wandering through samey environments and stumbling around until you finally find Gladys. It wasn't until this playthrough that I realized that if I was trying to escape a laboratory, it would probably play out very similar to Chell's escape attempt. Probably fewer pistons, I would add. But even though the segment is realistic, I can't say it's fun. You're wandering through hallways that look very similar and looking for tiny walls that have portable surfaces on them nearly the entire time. As a whole, though, I feel that Portal 1 doesn't hold up as a classic simply because Portal 2 exists. Where 2 introduces better writing, better test chambers, it's faster, blah, 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 blah. The game doesn't ever feel tedious to play.
Yeah, Portal 1 was if we didn't mention it.
Yeah, I hope we made that very
Yeah.
clear. That's the overall point of this thing. Yeah, the idea of it looking samey, I disagree. I think
Especially, well, so the first half of the game, look, it's intentional, right? Like you're in the test chambers and you're out of the test chambers, and yeah, I don't know if I agree
I
with
was
that
glad
necessarily.
for the visual, like distinctive,
Yeah.
like, different look. I will say that third portion where you're out, it is confusing. Like I felt like lost the first time I played for sure.
despite having like the arrows, like the red paint on the wall saying go this way. Yeah, that was maybe where I was stuck the most, is not that long after I broke up for the first time and I'm looking at this arrow and it's pointing up. So I have no idea. And there's one section where it's kind of big where there's like catwalks. And it's the first time you can kind of like go into the offices and go into
Yeah.
the offices that you could see from the test chambers that are blurred out, which I just absolutely love that you can look then down
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
the test
that's
chambers
really good.
themselves.
And there's some doors that you can open and some you can't. Like that just adds
Yeah.
like confusion.
I thought it was a really interesting way to make the latter parts more difficult, which is obviously something you have to figure out how to do in a puzzle game.
Right.
And not only that, but using them on regular environments, you just feel more powerful. Like you really start to understand how crazy of a device this portal gun is.
Right. Man, if
Yeah.
I can get outside, just think about how sweet that is.
That'd be
Yeah.
so good.
And also, there's just still so many surfaces you can use. It's limited a little bit more once you get out there, but it made me think back on Portal 2. Brilliant. I also am a Portal 2 guy over Portal 1. But it is, I remember the one big critique that always stood out to me with Portal 2 is like, there's not that many surfaces that you can use your portals on. Like, you can, I don't know.
The game, after a certain Portal 2, not to
Yes.
dive in Portal 2, but after a certain point, you're really just looking in the distance
That's
to try to find
exactly
that
it.
piece of white.
You can engineer it backwards. Like, okay,
Yeah.
there's this, so I have to shoot it from over there, which means this, which means this. Whereas Portal 1 it does a much better job of just walls all over the place. It's like, hey, go nuts.
Yeah.
So a lot of people wrote in about something that I hadn't really thought too much of before, but Cade from Australia says, hey, GI crew, I really liked how the music changed whenever you entered one of the Rat Man's dens. That's like the secret rooms. By the point in the game, it was clear something wasn't right, and the atmosphere changed from mysterious to downright dreadful when you first crawl through an open wall. It was pretty chilling. Yeah, I agree. Nick from Oregon piggybacks on that and says, hey, GI team, was Portal intended to be creepy? I feel like the series is often highlighted for being hilarious, but there's some moments in the first game that I found genuinely unsettling. A lot of the time they'd be in the hidden areas of the game, the scratching, notes on the walls, coupled with a usual lack of music created an eerie atmosphere, and this, along with feeling isolated the whole game, gave the game a pretty claustrophobic vibe. What do you guys think? Are subtle horror elements part of what makes the game unique? And real quick, Alec T, I realized I forgot to add something. I felt like Portal 2 lost most of the horror atmosphere and instead focused heavily on the humor. While still a great game, it lost something in the process, at least for me. So a lot of people were creeped out by Portal 1 that somebody in an email that I didn't include here even called like Portal 2 too slapstick, whereas Portal 1 has like a more menacing, less sarcastic edge to the whole thing.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't
it's
know.
just like,
I think
there's a creepiness to it, you know?
Well, Portal 2 has that one scene where you first activate Gladys, which is, like, for me, was kind
Amazing.
of creepy.
I agree.
and-
Yeah, it's
and
kind of scary
unnerving.
to see her back
Yeah.
to life. Yeah.
But as a whole, I can kind of see, like, it feels less. Part of it, I think, is because you have more people you're interacting with, like Wheatley and stuff. Like, Portal 1 feels more isolating.
There's
And
long
that's-
stretches without any quips.
And I
Yeah.
think that adds to it. I think that's mainly why there's that difference.
Yeah, for sure. But especially even just the color of the last third where everything's just red and rusty and loud with slamming pistons. It does kind of have an overwhelming, creepy vibe to it for sure.
There's spooky ambient music the whole time. Like that was probably the biggest thing I noticed is my memories of that game were how cool it was and how funny it was. But going back to it, it's really eerie the whole time.
Yeah.
And all the jokes are very dark.
All the jokes are very dark.
Yeah.
Hey, Gladys is trying to kill you, you guys. I do love at the end. I forgot how she has a reference to like, you're going to die and I know what the afterlife is. Just she has a weird line at
heard
the
that
end
line.
talking about, really? Am I nuts? It's right before the
I
boss fight.
might have missed it. Maybe I went to the boss quickly.
Yeah,
or
she just had
something.
some line about how she knows what the afterlife is like and it's going to be miserable for you. Jesus Christ, man.
I do like, because when you first start playing the game for the first time, Gladys is doesn't seem totally evil at first. And
There's
then you
like
start
glitches to like
Yeah.
hint that something's up.
It's like,
yeah.
wait, there's something wrong with this robot. And like, oh, she's kind of sarcastic and even mean. She's like calling you fat. And then it just continues to get worse and worse. And you're like, oh, she's straight up evil. Like, and there's that turn, kind of like I was saying, is like, there's a story that they're telling that you don't realize they're even telling until like halfway through the game, which is really cool.
Yeah. And also just a subtle detail too with what makes Gladys so charming and fun is it's an obvious simple thing, but repeating phrases in a robotic voice is like a secret little charm that Portal does. Like it's funny to hear a robot just slip into the same tone. Like at the end, there's a good example where she's talking about like a deadly neurotoxin. So that kept me from flooding it with a deadly neurotoxin.
Oh,
just
yeah.
that weird repeating rhythm. Always good. Always
Well, that's
good.
wonder. It's like you must really be the hero of Insert Test
Yes.
Chamber's hometown right now. Yeah.
Exactly.
She also, I wrote down, which I missed. She alludes that you're an android at some point.
Yes.
She does call you an android.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't know. I don't know if she's like, it's just one of those like.
She says, I think the joke is that they didn't have this test chamber, so what they did is they put you into one that was designed for military androids, and that's what the turrets were.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the line
Oh,
she says
so
going
she
into
just
it.
thinks you're an android, but you're not.
Or she just does it because she's trying to kill you.
That's interesting.
Also, there's a reference to, take your daughter to work day,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Which comes
with
back
some
in
of the,
two.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's fun to see like what they mined from the first one and what they kind of swept under the rug. Not counting the weird ending and stuff, which we can get into.
Yeah.
But
Well, they had thought of Cave Johnson and all that stuff. Not all that stuff, but like Cave Johnson when they were doing the first game.
is that right?
Yeah.
Wait, did they say that in interviews? I'm trying to remember.
I think it might have been. Was it in the commentary?
know.
I
I
feel
don't
like I read that
remember.
recently. But yeah, it was like a Portal 1 thing that I was reading through an old interview and they mentioned it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Talking about like tone and the art and maybe the repetitive nature of some of the environments. Nate Bushman says, hey, everyone, I wanted to touch upon something I realized with the level design that hasn't hit me before until now. The blandness of Aperture Science, how the walls and layouts of the test rooms all look the same. While I'm making this sound like a negative, I don't mean it to be. In a way, it's rather genius. It forces the player to focus their attention on the puzzle design more intently, especially with how the game ramps up its challenge from room to room. I also wanted to call out the Blue Morality Core from the boss fight at the end for telling me about the sweet, delicious cake recipe I
Yeah, it tells
had
you the whole
made,
recipe.
Oh, you made
a
it?
friend over the years. Yeah,
Oh,
for
nice.
sure. So just the blandness, it's one of those subtly brilliant things about Portal as well, as you can look at it and be like, well, of course the art's fine. It's pretty simple, but there is like a beauty in that simplicity that Dominic noticed here. Dominic Chikaki says, it might sound weird, but I'm a huge fan of signs in games. Like the background posters, just seeing environments and being able to study them clearly. This game, Portal 1, along with Counter-Strike Source, are really good examples of Valve having fun with these posters and making them engaging to look at. The details they put into signs and background elements are very fleshed out and noticeable, even all these years later. They've always helped put me into a world in a way no other game can. It's still a fun puzzle game, but I think the true barometer of how fun Portal still is seeing how people who weren't caught up in Portal Mania react to the game now and the game's world thanks to the signs.
It's been said before, but Valve is like, they're some of the best storytellers with just like people spray painting crap on walls. Like even Left 4 Dead and Half-Life 2, like always have just awesome stories just drawn on walls, you know, like Ratman here. And or like in Left 4 Dead, like people having conversations on walls, like this place is safe. And then like a follow-up would be like, you're crazy, there's zombies everywhere. And then like clearly those conversations happen like days apart, but like Portal's really good about that too. Like there's just great storytelling all over the walls, you know, in a weird way.
I remember when I was playing it for the review, there's a point where I had to go take a break and go to the bathroom. And I came back, and when I was walking back, I was doing the review with Brian Vore at the time, and he was at that section where you're like outside, you break free from GLaDOS, and there's that section where there's like a boardroom and like some slides that are cycling through, and he's like staring at it, and he's like, hey, check this out. And so we're like, for like 10 minutes, we're like looking at the slides and be like, wait, Black Mesa, like that's and so just like I remember like sitting there looking at the slides for a while and being like trying to read them all and like see what like there's some like secret hidden information hidden in those slides. Like it is fun to like just like they built up this world, but then they don't explicitly tell you everything that happened.
Yeah, for sure. Kyle,
Yes.
I have never finished a Half-Life game. Can you explain the aperture connections at the end of Half-Life
see.
Episode 2?
Maybe you guys can help me with this. Basically, Leo's giving me a shaking head.
You're on your own.
Let's see. Basically, they do establish that Aperture exists in that universe, right? Like they say, like we found the ship that Aperture was working on, and like you see this communication happen, and then thing goes black.
Yeah.
The tease is that they found the portal gun. Like it's not explicit. It's not. They say they found something in Aperture Labs, and then in Portal 2, you actually you can find evidence of a ship that was prominent in Half-Life 2.
The ship they talked about in Half-Life 2.
Yeah, that it disappears in Half-Life 2 suddenly. They don't know, this big, huge ship just disappears, and there's evidence that it was in Aperture.
And it's like they were working on teleportation technology.
Yeah.
And that might be linked to the portal technology.
They need to make Half-Life 3, you guys.
Oh my god!
That would be so good. I just want to know. I know no one else has had this idea.
Hang on.
That's a good idea.
Tweet at Valve, hashtag Half-Life 3. Let's get it rolling. Kyle, since you're such a brainiac bragging about how much you remember about Half-Life Episode 2 here, Rob the Butcher has a quiz for you.
Oh, God.
What was GLaDOS's first word she said to you at the beginning of the game?
Good morning?
Hello.
Oh,
Very
I was
close.
going to go with hello.
What are the numbers on the side of the portal gun?
7, 3, 12, 1.
4.
Okay.
What are the names of the 4 cores at the end of Portal?
Recipe 1. The one that has a lot of questions, guy.
Morality, curiosity, intelligence, and anger.
Sorry.
There we go.
I'm not clearly not.
Do you know what
on board
GLaDOS
with
stands for?
No, but it does. It stands for something,
stands
right?
for something,
It's an acronym for something.
I don't
That's
even
very
actually
confusing.
know.
Hey,
That's
speaking of
okay.
GLaDOS, you guys, great point, Reeves. Brian says, hey, GI crew, GLaDOS nails everything I like about a villain. She seems very HAL 9000 from 2001, but among many things which make her such a great villain, I think her voice just sells it for me. It's chilling, especially when you drop her morality core into the incinerator and her voice becomes soothing and more seductive, as the captions indicate, he says.
Yeah,
all right.
I saw those.
Oh, really? It says,
Very descriptive. Yeah, it's becomes soothing and more seductive. That's pretty much exactly what it says.
send in an email, Brian, do podcast@gameformer.com. It says it right in the captions.
Yeah.
That is an awesome moment. Where it's
Yeah.
like, ooh, what do we have here?
I know. I figured out what that was.
Related to
Yeah.
GLaDOS, real quick, one of my favorite commentary sort of bubbles was from Eric Wolpott in that room. Right by the entrance, there's a red phone with the wire cut.
Yeah.
Do you guys know? Do you know this
No.
one? And basically, what they said, Eric Wolpott said the idea, who wrote Portal and Portal, the idea behind it was that they would have a person sitting at that desk with the red phone to keep an eye on GLaDOS in case the AI ever got out of control. So if she started to turn evil, like I think that's literally what they said.
Yeah.
If she started to turn evil, he could make a call and they could shut the whole thing down. But the phone line is cut. So obviously GLaDOS like cut the phone
Didn't
line
work.
and just like killed this guy or whatever.
That's
and then
awesome.
flooded
Which is-
everything with neurotoxins.
which is so great.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Nicholas says the ending. Oh, actually, Bradley says he really likes the fight with Gladys at the end. He likes the urgency it has with the giant timer on the TVs, and I like the orbs you interact with. But I can't help but think the tried and true rule of three's approach to defeating her is overshadowed by the creativity of the rest of the game. Yeah, I mean, you're just kind of doing the same thing a couple times, taking care of those cubes. They put them in different places. There's some tricky ones where you have to jump down.
Yeah.
I like that fight. I like the ideas behind that fight. I am not in love with the timed aspect on a final boss like that. I don't know how
It's
else you
more than
add
enough
tension.
time. I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever been in danger.
I think
of
every
not
time
doing
I've
it.
played Portal, I've died from the time at the end.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I'm very bad. Is there a trick to lining up those rocket shots? They're always at a crazy
it's above
angle.
the. You know where the first core gets dropped on those two pipes?
Sure.
That's the best place to put the portal for missiles going.
There's
back
a
at
spot on the wall that has like 2 lines on it, and if you put it right in between, it's just enough room for a portal. It
Are the
goes into it
lines the
every time.
shadows? Because that's what I was working off. There's like 2 weird
I
shadows.
thought they were sticking out.
Is this something that's
Really?
established in the rest of the game where you have those 2 sort of like protruding lines? So, okay, see, I didn't even use those. Okay.
I think if you just put it on a flat wall and put the other one above
I took a nap when it started, and then woke up and then beat
Is
it.
that right? Son of a god.
Oh, that missile launcher, by the way, is they kind of repurposed for the second game to make Peabody. Because it's like
Is
this,
that right?
It looks like it. I don't know if it's like ever been for sure said by them, but it's like where Atlas. I might be having the names reversed because I always forget which one's which.
Yeah.
Where Atlas is the turret because he's tall and skinny. I think Peabody is the round missile launcher from that shows up in the first game. Pretty sure anyway.
I'll go with that. Yeah, it sounds great. So weird thoughts on the 18th test chamber, which is difficult to describe. Look it up real quick. You'll remember it if you see it. It gets pretty complicated. Barbara Joe said, I had forgotten how incredibly short the overall game is. And as much as I love this game, I've always found the last section of Test Chamber 18 to be pretty terrible. Most of the other chambers had leaned more heavily on clever puzzles, whereas this section was far too platformy. Whereas Mr. Jeffrey writes in and says, none of the test chambers have a gotcha moment. They're all brilliant. He says the game is almost laid out like a shooter, tightly directed so the player always sees what they need to see. Each puzzle is laid out in an easy-to-read way so that the challenge is finding all the pieces and how they all work together. The developer commentary gives a lot of insight into how Valve designs and uses player feedback. One of the best examples is the turret room in Chamber 18. By this point in the game, all the major concepts have been introduced to you, and you're piecing it all together. You see all the turrets and the energy sphere generator in the middle of the room. Behind the generator is a box delivery tube, and to the left where you enter is the receptor behind a timed switch. The colors of the room, noise generated by the sphere generator, and the red laser sights help direct your attention to these elements too. With a quick look around the room, you're given 3 goals. Clear the turrets, connect the energy sphere, and get to the other side of the room.
Okay, no, this is the one where you have to knock out all the turrets, right?
Yeah, there's a
remember that one,
couple,
yeah.
yeah.
Like you have to use the spheres to knock out the turrets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Some of those towards the end, man. Let's see. Which one is... There's one that's just a wave of FUs. I think it might be around that one. Maybe it's even 19. Do you guys have troubles with any test chambers this time around?
Well, I like even the ones like that one I struggled with initially, but maybe I died, but it only took dying like once to kind of be like, oh, okay, I got to line up the laser sights. Like
Right.
that's where, and I ultimately, I didn't really have a lot of trouble. There weren't any that I got super stuck on. I certainly died a lot, but nothing that I never felt totally stuck.
Yeah. What do you think about the end of 18 there with the big jumping sections?
Where you have to get the door open and then jump.
This is like the big...
where you get launched up.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Like the most Twitch moment
Yeah.
of Portal 1.
The tricky part about that one is remembering which portal you need to shoot at the next platform.
I'm
right?
so terrible at that
Yeah.
every
That's
time.
way easier to do with a mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed like it's a little bit harder with controller. Is the only weird thing there.
I
but-
did have to kind of make mental notes. Be like, okay, shot orange. Next, I got to do blue. Okay, now
Right.
it's time to do orange.
And it has the indicator on there, but I can
Yeah.
never remember like the last one you shot.
Yeah.
What system did you guys play this on?
I think Reeves and I both played
the Xbox One.
the
actually,
Xbox. Like we
because of
played
the
Orange
backwards
Box, backwards
compatibility.
compatible.
Did that look like S?
Yeah, it looked fine.
Uh,
I mean, it's
I
dated,
was-
but
I was noticing a setting that I'd never noticed before in the PC version that was called Portal Funnel
what?
that you can crank up, and it's really helpful. Like as you're going down towards those portals in those segments you're talking about, where you have to keep making other ones as you're
Yeah.
using the
Yeah.
inertia, and you just really get directed straight to it as you're following.
Oh, really?
Oh,
So
Yeah.
wait, if you're just slightly off, you'll just get funneled.
sucks
Yeah,
you
you'll
in.
automatically.
Okay.
Oh,
towards
yeah, that does
it.
seem like it would be helpful.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, I
Huh.
had no memory of it.
Wow, I should have dug through those settings. I also played on PC. It was the first time I played with a mouse and keyboard, I think. I was like, oh, clearly the way this should be working.
Yeah.
I'm holding down shift to run too much, but outside of that, it is a dream come true. And like it holds up visually really, really well on PC, except for like the UI and the menu for like settings. That looks about like 2007 did.
Yeah, but I mean, that game also, the art direction, I think it makes that game pretty timeless because it's, a lot of white settings, and like I think that's a game that will always look pretty good,
It'll look pretty good for the rest of its life. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So boss fight at the end, you guys loved it?
Well, I actually forgot about, I guess you could call it a boss fight, where you have to take out all those turrets.
In that weird Quake map?
Totally forgot about that. But I really liked it because I had that moment where like the doors open and all the laser sights on me, and I had that awesome moment of like, oh, I gotta get out of the way, and I shot a portal to the right and like lit one of my feet and got out of there really fast. And
nice.
And I liked kind of making my way around the room and taking out each of those turrets.
I like the end of that where you have to do that double fling. It might even be a triple fling depending
I
on
think so.
how you did it to get over all the way across to the end, like right before you go fight Gladys after that. But
yeah, for sure.
That's one of my favorite parts.
I forgot about that weird room as well. When it opened up, I was like, what is happening? I don't remember this at all. Even though I think turrets are fun. They're clearly funny. I love when they say they're not mad at you.
I love the like, are you still there?
Of
Like,
course. Yeah, speaking of memes.
Adorable.
But I feel like everything gets a little bit mushy when the turrets come into play in the game overall, where it's just kind of like, okay, I just nudge you a little bit and you fall over. For a game all about like so many precise options and telling you exactly what to do, at that point it's just kind of like, just kind of roll a barrel a couple inches and it'll knock over this guy's leg.
Yeah, and you can pick them up and move them and drop them, and sometimes they won't tip over. You
Oh,
just have to
really?
do it again. That doesn't feel right.
So the very no, I guess it's not the first one where you encounter that where the turrets, but where you have to drop the cubes on their head. It's like it's the best way to do it. The very first time I played Portal, I got through that room by holding a cube in front of me to block the bullets.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
It's the worst way to play it. It's like once like you go back and you figure out that it's just so easy to just like get behind them really quickly or drop cubes on them, but like in retrospect, I look back on that level and I just am embarrassed that that's how I got through that puzzle, was holding a cube in front of me to block.
I
the
still do
bullets.
that with like barrels and stuff. Like I
that's
just
the
walk
wrong
right
way.
towards them.
That's
It's
the wrong way to
fine.
do it. You can always get behind them or above them.
Isn't there a
Really?
part
Yeah.
where there's like two on either side? So if you're walking towards one, you get shot in the back?
Well, you just drop a cube on one. There's always.
Well, no, but the way you did it.
I don't know,
Holding the
man.
thing.
I think I was able to walk up to one and knock it over with the cube. Like basically holding the cube in front of me, shoving it into them, and moving to the next one and shoving it into them.
I always
Is not the right way to do it.
No. I always love having a portal set up somewhere else and then just shooting it basically like a gun at their feet and then just watching them fall
Yeah.
through the abyss.
That's the
That's
best.
always satisfying.
Yeah. And then you hear in the background in some other room, wherever your portal is, like,
Yeah. Yeah. As they slowly peter out. Just the worst designed weapons of all time.
not great.
I mean, it is from a gameplay perspective, it's a little obnoxious, like how they are weirdly sometimes difficult to knock over. But like from the perspective of like Aperture clearly doesn't quite know what they're doing, but somehow have the technical know-how to pull off this stuff. I think they're perfect.
Were they originally designed as baby monitors? Isn't that what it
that
is
was like
in the
Portal 2
lore?
fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right? God, I
Yeah.
don't remember that at all.
Yeah, there's like one of those little animation trailers where that was the commercial for them. It's like, yeah, put this in your home to protect your baby. That's so good.
Hey guys, Portal 2 is really good. But hey, Portal 1
series is very funny.
Hey, they should make a Portal 3.
Oh,
Hey Valve, are you
What?
listening?
Hashtag GI.
The cake is a truth. You can have that one.
Yeah,
That's the tagline.
brother.
Alright.
Good job, Leo.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Companion Cube. What'd you guys think of it? How quickly did you get rid of it? I forgot how brilliant it is to put that timer on it, so it's just like concrete windows of like, do it this time or
You
do it
have
next
to
You have
time.
to do it.
You
I
have
love
to
it.
do it.
First time I played it, I definitely like paused. I was like, do I want to do this? And I ran out of time. And I'm like, But I'm like, you have to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
what
That
are we
line
going-
is so brilliant too, where she's like, "Oh, it's the quickest anybody's ever done it."
So good.
That's
Yeah.
really good.
But I did. I had that moment too, where I was like, "Wait, I have to get rid of this thing, the one with the heart." That's helped me so much. It got me up to higher places. We were
Yeah.
friends.
One of the most poignant tweets I've ever seen in my life was Polygon's Nick Robinson, where he said, "If Portal 1 came out now, people would unapologetically try and want to F the companion cube."
Well, they probably do. I mean, I don't think it's even
Probably.
if it came out now.
I'm
A lot
sure
of-
DeviantArt's filled with it.
Sexual symbolism with the incinerator and the cube going into it.
I never thought about that. Sounds like
Oh.
prom night.
And so the incineration is just a flaring up of.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not important. It's not important.
So this is this game club is basically us just repeating the commentary over and over again. But they in the commentary, they do talk about the companion cube, which I thought was amazing, is they just had a normal box there and people kept walking past it and not caring about it until they put hearts on it. And then suddenly people wanted to like pick up the box and carry it around.
It
And
works though.
So by the end of it,
So
they're like,
funny.
well, we can use this as like a twist and like make them destroy the thing, which also sets up like what you're going to have to do with Gladys, which is like kind of a brilliant way of like
yeah, that's true. I
tying
guess.
it in.
Yeah, you're right.
So good.
And also just like right when you get it, having to like go up those stairs and really like carry it, and makes you care for it more than you'd imagine.
Yeah.
So Michael Joswiak, first time playing the game, his critiques.
Let's hear 'em.
He said overall he enjoyed it, but a couple things that he noticed. The Gladys voice work is solid. I think we can all agree.
Okay.
The dialogue was mostly amusing. Background music left a little to be desired.
It's dark, right? There's not a lot.
It's pretty ambient and soft. Like it kicks in a little bit, but certainly there's no hooks, as
Yeah.
Kyle Hilliard would want. Like Portal 2
Gotta
feels
have
like it
them
has so much
hooks.
more of a clear musical direction. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's the sound of Portal 2. And now going back to Portal 1, it just feels like that's
weird,
like
like-
10% of
It's kind
Portal
of
2
like it's
soundtrack.
creepy electronic buzzing, but I think it's effective though. I do like it.
Yeah. Also, Michael says, though the game is light on story, understandable for a short puzzler, I'd still prefer a bit more closure in the waning moments. Maybe this comes in Portal 2?
Yeah, you should play Portal 2, buddy.
Yeah, you should play
So
Portal 2.
help me out with the memory. So originally, it just shows you on the surface, fade to black.
That's how it still is in the orange box on Xbox
Yeah.
360.
Oh, really?
You're
They never.
stationary.
I
That's
thought
the
they
original
patched
ending.
it
They patched it for the PC.
because I
version.
originally played it on 360, and I'm
Yeah?
Oh, really? And they patched it
Really?
for
Maybe
that?
it's a backwards compatible thing because I played it on Xbox One.
Yeah,
but
I just played it and it
Okay.
was that way.
And then they patched it so that she's dragged back in for
Right.
Portal 2. So that was after Portal 2 was announced. They patched it.
it was
so
before, I think.
Yeah, I think
Because
you're right.
I think we announced it on our cover, and they were talking to us like, all right, on Monday, we're dropping this patch, and here's what it's going to do.
Really.
And
Yeah.
people latched onto it quickly. Like they noticed right away that there was like something had changed.
I would love
That's
to have
crazy.
found that before I knew anything about Portal 2.
Oh,
That'd been
yeah, that'd be
amazing.
awesome.
Because
Yeah.
it didn't
Playing through
really,
again.
it wasn't really an announcement. It was just like,
Oh no,
wait,
not at all.
it changes is she can drag back in. But obviously,
Yeah.
that's what that means is it's going to, yeah. So it's like a brilliant way to announce something without really
I love
saying
how everyone
anything.
craps all over BioWare for changing the ending to Mass Effect 3, and then Valve's like, well, you're cool, because we get Portal 2. I understand. Night
Yeah,
and day
it's a different
difference,
thing.
but when it comes to, changing your
also
ending
so
pretty
subtle.
drastically.
Very, very
Well,
Well,
here's
now that
my
we have
question.
Andromeda, people are pretty happy.
Exactly, and everyone stopped complaining once and for all. But what I don't understand is, in the original ending then, before she was dragged back down, does it just like the camera without Chell just move down and show you like the cake, and then
Actually,
it plays
it goes
the
through her
song?
Facebook
Yeah, yeah.
profile and shows that you're married and have kids now.
That's
Is
right.
that? I'll
That's
be
right.
damned.
That's pretty good.
That's
No,
weird because MySpace was popular.
No,
at
it still
the
does the
time.
whole thing with the cake, yes.
Okay, but
Yeah.
in theory, it's not like she's being shoved down there again. It's just
Yeah.
showing that the cake technically is down there.
It just shows that the cake's really down there.
Like the original ending is that basically you know that you got out, but that's all you know. You don't even know if you survived necessarily. You just know
Right.
that you're out of the facility because you can see nature.
That was the thing. I
Right.
was like, oh, cool, I'm out. What's going to happen? And yeah, then it ended, which I was like, oh, the game's over.
And you always play talking out loud through
That's
every
right.
section of every game.
Everyone's really annoyed. Brian was like, come on, man. I'm trying to enjoy this.
Press and start again. Gotta take a bathroom break. Oh, options. What are these, bro?
Whoa, dude.
All right.
Oh, I'm gonna turn down this volume.
Forgot to zip up.
Gamma. Interesting. Were there any critiques you guys can think of? What stood out as like the flaw in this brilliant little
the
experience?
sphere puzzles. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, those really.
Yeah. Well, we already talked about kind of the slower beginning, which maybe, yeah.
Which really is just a product of playing it again. Like
Yeah.
the first playthrough, like you kind of
it's
need
kinda
that time.
necessary. Yeah.
Just the freezing as it loads in between sections. I
Yeah.
really wish they would go back and just get rid of that.
Well, you're just like walking down a hallway, and then it's all of a sudden just loading the next section.
That's
All
a
right.
Valve thing.
It's
Half-Life
such an
does that as well.
archaic, weird, design.
And you're right. It seems like they could remove that at this
Yeah,
point. I don't know.
Dota 2, it happens in the lane often. Just will pop up the loading screen. The one thing I noticed this time through is it's really frustrating in like the Ratman's Den and stuff. The doors. Some doors you can open, some you can't.
Yeah.
Just don't put a door there if we can't open.
or
Why
just make sure
frustrate
they
people?
all don't open,
Right.
which usually there's a way to get through it. Yeah, because the ones you can open, just don't put a door there.
And maybe they want to put a door there just to tease, like, oh, the structure is bigger than you think, or something. But just having that inconsistency was
They could have had more of a
frustrating.
visual signifier whether you're going to be able to open it or not.
or just
Something
always
green
leave
or
it open a
something red.
crack, or
Yeah,
Because I do like the idea of like after that point in the game, it's like, oh, I can open these now. But yeah, like if that's the case, just don't put any unopenable doors. Like just put a wall there. You don't need to give us extra doors. So
Yeah, for sure. Larry writes in, this is my favorite 3 things about Portal. I did not see the twist halfway coming. Faith No More's Mike Patton was the anger core.
that's right. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
That's strange. And
'Cause,
also,
yeah, he was also in the Darkness, I think, which was like right around that time. Maybe a year or
weird.
two difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Same character.
Yeah. Pretty much, actually.
Yeah.
And then Larry's third point is blasphemous. He says he loves Portal 1 because there's no Wheatley. Do people not like
what?
Wheatley?
Wheatley's
That's like one of my
people
favorite
love
characters
Wheatley.
ever. I
Leo,
just
calm
assumed
down,
everybody-
Leo. It's
Whoa.
okay.
Oh, he's hulking out.
Yeah, I never
love
heard
Wheatley.
any hate for Wheatley.
I've
It's
never heard
certainly my
anybody
favorite
complain about Wheatley.
performance.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Very strange.
I get if you
Stephen
liked how
Merchant ever
scary
done any
the
other games?
What's that?
Has Stephen Merchant ever done any other games?
Ah.
I don't think so. You stepped on Leo's great joke. Go
yeah,
ahead,
but
Leo.
what's yours, Leo?
No, I was just gonna say if you liked how scary the first one was, maybe having such a straight comedic character, at least for the first few hours of his arc,
Yeah.
that could have been bothersome.
Yeah, he gets freaky enough by the end. What more do you want?
Yeah, he becomes a good
Um,
villain. Spoilers.
My brother and I have played through Portal many times, says Matthew Thies from Virginia Beach. Anyways, but only played it first after the release of the sequel. By that time, we had read about all the major surprises people had with the game. While the game is still enjoyable, do you think the game loses some of its splendor when a player doesn't go in completely blind? Yeah, also concerning the game's humor, here's what it is. Do you prefer the surreal wit of Portal 1 or the more in-your-face slapstick of Portal 2?
Yeah, it's so hard.
Huh.
I think I really like the jokes in Portal 1, but I want to say maybe better, but there's just more of it in 2, so it's kind of hard to compare.
Plus, you have
it.
Cave Johnson, Wheatley, and GLaDOS. And they
Yeah.
all have just every single one of them have like just a handful of like fantastic, super memorable lines. I mean, like Cave Johnson has a memorable monologue for Christ's
Yeah.
sake, like about lemons.
And I think the first one was mostly Eric Wolpa, I think, and then the second one was like 3 different guys.
Yeah,
and
I
all
think
3 of
so.
them were
And
so-
we all remember the song at the end of Portal 2. It's almost as iconic as Still Alive.
I really like that. Are you being sarcastic? I love
Raise,
the
how does
second.
it go?
I don't remember.
Kyle, please don't
Oh,
say
what?
anything.
And now I only want you gone.
And now I want you to
Now I only
go.
want
It's
you
time
Really?
to
I didn't know
go.
that. So many people wrote in about the
That
song.
was the original take on it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I did not remember that there was a song at the end of
There
Portal 2.
absolutely is a song.
Okay,
at the end of
I have it
Portal
on my iPod. I have them both together. It's a great time to listen to them both. I like them
Mhm,
both. I think.
mhm.
Okay.
No, it's fine. Grady says, hey, Ben and crew. He's from North Carolina. Hello, Grady. When I replayed the game this weekend for the first time since its release, I kept wondering how the game would be received today if it was released. What are your thoughts? Do you think things like Cake is a Lie and Now You're Thinking with Portal memes would be as prevalent in nerd culture as they were back then? Most importantly, would Kyle name his second child Chell?
If Portal 1 came out today, so this imagines that I still named my first child Chell, and then
Yes,
but then
of
Portal
course.
1 came out, and I was like, oh, what a great name! Let me use this again.
I think it was considered the question, but we should point out it takes all the constraint within his soul not to mention it. But Kyle did name his daughter after this game.
Yes, it's her middle name, and I did tell God, I can't believe I forgot her name.
Her name is Ashley, your wife.
Oh, no. The woman who is basically credited with coming up with the mechanic for Portal.
Kim Swift?
Kim Swift. I mentioned to her that my daughter's middle name is Chell. She said, "Oh, that's nice."
Get away from me, you monster.
Go
Who's now?
away, what are you doing?
She's now working at EA Motive.
Yeah.
Kim Swift.
That was actually that was my first E3. I got to meet her. That was intense for me. That was very exciting. My
Really?
first E3 and then meeting Kim Swift. I mean, Portal, I don't know if I've made this clear, is in my top 5. Like Portal 1 and 2 especially is like one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
far and
yeah.
away. So that was a
More
big deal.
importantly, you played this game with your daughter, right?
Yeah.
Did you explain you're named after this piece of software?
I tried to. She was really not interested. I don't know.
She tried.
I'll show it to her again later.
Well, she's the same person who only made it through halfway boogieing your butt before she started crying and screaming for me to turn it off.
She was really
so,
into it in the beginning, but then things went awry.
So I can't imagine telling her to
She
sit
was
down for 3
crying.
hours of Portal 1.
There were a couple lines that I repeat. Like I was like, "Hey, did you hear what the robot said?" And she was like, "No." And then I said, "That's what the robot said." She's like, "Oh, that's funny. I'm gonna go play this free to play iPad game now."
You need to watch
parenting
your
sounds
language.
really hard.
Don't say that at daycare. You can say it at home.
Jerry from Idaho says, hey, GI, what do you think about the supposed J.J. Abrams Portal movie? Do you think it'll actually come out? Could Portal make a good video game-based movie?
No.
Well, wait,
I
hold
wanna
on.
say.
Yes, I think it will actually come out because they have a director who made a Portal fan film.
Hang
right?
on, they haven't announced him, have they?
I believe so.
No.
Okay, it's the guy who did Cloverfield Lane.
Dan Trachtenberg, yeah,
Yeah.
he made an awesome Portal fan film, and then 10 Cloverfield Lane. I've been screaming that he's probably going to do it because
Okay.
he worked with
I
J.J.
thought
Abrams already.
maybe I misinterpreted your screaming as an announcement.
Shrieking loudly.
When
Okay.
are you going to make the official announcement, Hanson?
I'm thinking maybe next week. I'll put money down that he will direct it if it ever
Yeah,
happens.
I
though.
think you're right.
It just seems like a weird property to make a film out of because while I think the story is cool and fun, like, is there really enough story there? Like, what makes that game so cool is the mechanics are really cool and the story is funny, but that doesn't immediately translate into a film.
Yeah. There was an animated short film that somebody made. It was kind of everyone calls any CGI Pixar style, but this one in particular had like the character design that they came up with for Chell looked like she could exist in the Incredibles universe. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like I thought that looked cool and maybe could be adapted into a film. Like I think there's enough there to make a film. I don't know if it would be good. I would go see it.
I think if you have trying to adapt like Portal 1, you'd have to take personality cores and spheres and shoehorn them back in just so
Yeah.
Chell has somebody to interact with. And there could
They'd
obviously
have to have a Wheatley character like
Yes.
in that. Like she'd have to have someone with her to interact with who's like this weird AI.
and I think you could do it just Hypercube style, trying to get out of there, fighting Gladys. Like the potential for amazing action scenes just using the portal gun. I guess it's basically Thor 2. They have a portal gun, I think, in that. Do you remember that, Reeves?
Oh man, vaguely.
I think it has like a
think you're
portal
right.
fight scene, but it's an awesome fight scene
Yeah.
from what I barely remember, about it. So I think there's
weaker Marvel films, but yeah,
I think it certainly can be
That's
done
fine.
with personality spheres.
Could be cool.
sure.
Make
It's
them all
they're-
have their own
I'd love to be
personalities, like
wrong.
Air Buddies or something.
It's exactly like Air Buddies. Yeah, some have like backwards hats. Some are really good at volleyball.
There's the girl one.
The girl sphere, the strongest personality type, girl.
to kind of touch on what we talked about earlier in the podcast, like I think there's more potential in a Portal movie being quality than there is for a Metal Gear Solid movie to be quality, because I think there's just less in Portal, if that makes sense.
More room to interpret.
Yeah, like there's less just things that could screw up, because there's really only a few characters who are really funny in that. There's a lot of good movies that just have a few really funny characters. I'll name them all. Number one.
Please don't.
Oh yeah.
Any other brilliant insights? Any specific moments you want to talk about with Portal 1?
I like Hoopy the Hoop. Did we? You guys
What?
familiar with that?
Is that one of the Air Buddies?
So when we were talking to when we were on the Portal 2 cover story and we were talking to Eric Wolpaw, we were like, hey, all those memes, like pretty crazy. Like, did you expect any of those to be memes? And he's like, no, not really. Like, the one thing we thought was gonna be a meme was Hoopy the Hoop. And it's like the ending sequence where you fall out and you're out in, like, you can see the trees.
Yeah.
There's a hoop that falls on top of you. You guys remember this? And it like
No.
kind of does a spin. And
Okay.
they're like, we sat and watched that over and over again. We thought it was the funniest thing ever. And we started calling it Hoopy the Hoop. And I'm like, are you serious? And I still, to this day, I'm not entirely sure he wasn't
I
pulling
think
my
they're
leg.
effing with you, Reeves. There's
But-
no way.
But it's out there on the internet now, too. Like, I Hoopy think he's the Hoop. repeated it to other people. Like,
Maybe
and
he's
to the
trying
point-
to generate a meme
to
in
the
interviews
point where
somehow.
it's in Portal 2, there's like a couple of places where you can see that hoop in the environment.
Really?
Yeah.
Mirrors. It's the protagonist.
It's really a hoop the whole time.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I thought it was weird that you guys basically get two portal guns and like combine them into one or
Yeah.
something.
That
what's
was
up with
weird.
that?
It's not like
Oh, I never
something you
even
plug
thought
in.
about that.
Yeah. Like, do you drop one for the other one or something?
It doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
weird.
it's a pretty
You
quick,
just
weird
smash
thing.
them together.
Yeah, that's what it should have been. You should have dropped one and picked up the other one. Or like you plugged it into a station and like it uploaded the ability to do the second one.
Or you're holding a half a gun the whole time.
Yeah,
Oh,
that'd
just
be
you
good.
could only see the top half, I guess.
Or the right half or something.
Well, I mean, because you see the
Just
gun on
spitballing.
the screen.
There's like a portal on
Just,
it.
they could have changed that. I mean,
Just patch it in.
Do you guys? I'm curious. Just like, do you guys have a preference between Portal 1 and 2? Like, I think Hanson and I have said like we both think Portal 2 is the more interesting like experience.
Yeah, I mean it's like I know we always talk about this like it's a Legend of Zelda situation. It's
Yeah.
like maybe you think Link to the Past is the better game, right? Because it iterates on the formula, but you wouldn't have that without the original.
Yeah.
So I do think Portal 2 is probably like the more polished, better game. But like, you wouldn't have it without the first one. So like I have a fondness for the first one that I don't necessarily have to the same degree with the second one.
Yeah, I'll certainly give it to the second still. Just I am a fan of the writing in the world more than maybe puzzles, but there's something to be said for such a tight, focused package.
Yeah, I mean,
like
I
Portal
loved
1.
like that was there weren't a lot of games like that when Portal 1 came out that were really short, kind of condensed, like best of the best. And
Yeah.
those are like my favorite games now, like Limbo and Inside. These are like not long games, but they just really execute on the sort of message they're trying to get across. And I feel like Portal was among the first sort of shorter experiences to do that.
It was
Yeah.
an indie style game back before the indie market
Yeah.
really existed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leo, do you have a preference?
I mean, it feels like a Terminator 1, Terminator 2 situation almost.
Where Terminator 2 is clearly better in every way?
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
we're
as
like-
good of an analogy as mine. Leo.
Where Portal 1 feels like a rough draft for Portal 2. Like if I could only pick one to exist, it would be Portal 2 in a
Terminator
heartbeat.
1.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But like a really good rough draft, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's incredible, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Portal-
Portal 2 is just this whole grand adventure.
Yeah. Portal 1 always existed in my mind as like the go-to game if someone wasn't sure about the power of video games, right? It was always like, oh, let's just sit down and play through all of Portal 1 together. Like I always think like, oh, at some point it'd be fun to like sit down with mommy and daddy and show them
weird.
Portal 1.
I totally think that too. Like I want my parents to play Portal 1 and or 2 just to understand like this is something that video games can do in terms of telling a
That's why
story.
you named your child Chill. You're like,
It's a long con is what I'm getting.
Pay
for.
attention to me, parents.
Yeah.
But playing through it this time, I don't know if it would. Maybe I'm just terrible at it. But I feel like there's a shocking amount of waiting and a lot of stupid accidental deaths on my part. I feel like in the back third, they'd be like, all right, we're good. I think we get it. The robot lady talks and it's funny.
I think again, just if it was their first time and they're not super into games, I don't think that stuff would really necessarily turn them off. I get it for maybe a modern gamer who hasn't played Portal 1 going back. Some of that stuff would be grating, but somebody who hasn't played games, I don't think that would be.
I don't think you're aware of how many times I died while playing it, though. Like, it'll be really obnoxious.
You
in
did
their
run out the
face.
timer at the end boss.
Yeah, that's a good indicator of how
Okay.
abysmal I am
I
at these
forgot,
games.
that's right.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Portal 1, everybody. Reeves, we finally did it. You've been wanting
We
to do
did
this
it.
game club for like a year.
I've been quietly begging Hanson for a long time. Since we started Game Club, I think. I was
This
like,
is-
hey, I got an idea.
Yes.
I got an idea.
And this is Reeves' one idea, and it's his reward for being such a champion on almost every game club we've ever done.
That's right.
He's really the sweetest man around.
So Portal 2, we'll do that next week.
Yeah,
During E3.
Oh God, that's the contender.
That would
Maybe
be fun.
someday we'll
Yeah.
get to Portal 2. That'd be a lot to go through, and oh man, there's a lot more opportunities to get stuck. But it'll be great. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Just play through it with your parents.
It'll be a great time. But that's it for this episode of Game Club, and that's it for this overall episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. Oh no, not next Thursday at all. Be sure to tune in theory, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night for brand new episodes of the Game Informer Show. So it's gonna be busy next week. So see you then, everybody. Bye.
Now these points of data make a beautiful line, and we're out of data, we're releasing on time. So I'm glad I got burned. Think of all the things we learned for the people who are still alive. Go ahead and leave me. I think I prefer to stay inside. Maybe you'll find someone else to help you. Maybe Black Mesa. That was a joke, haha, that chance. Anyway, this cake is great. It's so delicious and moist. Look at me still talking when there's science to do. When I look up there, it makes me glad I'm not you. I've experiments to run. There is research to be done on the people who are still alive. And believe me, I am still alive. I'm doing science and I'm still alive. I feel fantastic and I'm still alive. While you're dying, I'll be still alive. And when you're dead, I will be still alive. Still alive. Still alive.
Is that what it is?
Stay, Kyle. Hey, over here on your right. You're next.
Is that you? I thought you would be an adult by now. Is that it? Are we done with the bit? Should I Get out of here.
Hey,
Oh.
hey,
Yes?
fuck you.
Oh. Angelica, where did you learn that kind of language? Is it your mother, wasn't it? She seems like she doesn't pay enough attention to you.
Hey, Kyle, I'm going inside you.
Don't do that. Come on. Be reasonable.
Now Kyle just screamed.
Ah! Ah! Ah!